Chapter 2280. Unlike the Moonlight Sword Immortal, Su Zimo did not fall down the moment he reached the ninth stone step. Instead, he stood firmly on it with his back straight and unmoving. The ninth step. Ever since the Tao Heart Stairs existed, apart from the Patriarch, no one else in Qianquan Academy had been able to reach the ninth step. The ninth step was known as the Step of Wisdom. The Patriarch of the Academy was an erudite man who could see through all things and knew the secrets of the heavens. He possessed boundless wisdom, and the ninth step was formed by the Patriarch. It was said that after the Moonlight Sword Immortal failed to reach the ninth step, she only said a single sentence. The Patriarch's Tao heart is untouchable. He possesses supreme wisdom and is unpredictable. Ever since then, the Moonlight Sword Immortal never attempted to climb the ninth step again. As for the other disciples of Qianquan Academy, they did not even have the ability to touch the ninth step, let alone stand on it like Su Zimo. Impossible. Fang Qingyun clenched his fists instinctively and growled from the depths of his throat. However, he quickly realized that he had lost his composure and hurriedly composed himself, hiding the killing intent and hostility in his eyes as he looked around. Thankfully, no one noticed him at all. Even Elder Xian did not look at him again. Everyone's gazes landed on the figure on the ninth stone step. This was truly the center of attention. No one spoke. Tens of thousands of inner sect disciples were gathered in the huge venue. However, it was completely silent. Everyone was waiting for an outcome. Could this rank 1 heaven immortal, who had just ascended from the lower realm, and joined the inner sect pass the Tao heart trial on the ninth stone step? It had not been long since Tang Peng fainted, and perfected immortal Yu Chan was crippled. Any one of those incidents was enough to cause quite a stir in the academy. However, most cultivators had already forgotten about it, and no one cared. More and more cultivators gathered around the Tao heart stairs. It was not only the inner sect disciples. Some legacy disciples had also rushed over from the legacy area, and the entire Qianquan Academy was alarmed. Swash! Right then, a strange fluctuation appeared in midair. Immediately after, an old man in white robes appeared out of thin air with a walking stick. Although his hair and beard were white, he was hale and hearty. His eyes were bright as he looked at the green-robed cultivator on the Tao heart stairs. Look, it's the Great Elder. Even the Great Elder is alarmed. Waves of restlessness appeared in the crowd. Elder Xian lifted his head slightly and glanced at the first elder before withdrawing his gaze. He didn't say anything. Suddenly, another figure appeared in another part of the void. As soon as this figure appeared, a thick murderous aura spread out. Behind him, it was as if a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood had appeared. This old man looked much younger, but his face was pale, and his eyes were gloomy. His whole body was emitting a cold aura that kept people away. After the old man appeared, many disciples of the academy could not help but shiver. It's Second Elder. I heard that the Second Elder is in charge of law enforcement. He is the most ruthless and impartial. There was once a true disciple who broke the rules of the sect, and was directly crippled by him. Silence. Don't let Second Elder notice you. The ripples that had just appeared in the crowd quickly calmed down. Swoosh. On the other side of the void, a pitch-black hole was suddenly burned by a ball of flames. An old man walked out from within, as though he was bathed in flames. Within the flames, countless divine weapons floated up and down. It's the 8th Elder of the Academy, Elder Zhong said softly. The 8th Elder is in charge of all the divine weapons and Dharma treasures in the Academy. If you want to obtain the best Dharma treasures and divine weapons in the sect, you have to obtain the permission of the 8th Elder. Senior brother Su caused such a huge commotion when he ascended the Tao heart stairs for the first time. 3 elders have already appeared. Lu Ping was secretly speechless. Ascending the Tao heart stairs is an unprecedented achievement. Elder Zhong lamented. It's only natural that these elders would appear to witness this scene. As the 3 of them spoke, another old man appeared in midair. This elder wore green robes. After he appeared, the entire place was filled with a faint medicinal fragrance that refreshed one's heart. This is the 7th Elder of the Academy. Elder Zhong saw that Princess Qi Hong and Lu Ping were confused and said, The 7th Elder is in charge of all the spirit pills and miraculous medicines in the Academy. The immortal alchemists in the academy are all under the seventh elder's management. Before he finished speaking, another old man appeared. This old man had a benevolent look and looked extremely friendly. He had a smiling face and a white face without any facial hair. At first glance, one would have a good impression of him. This is the fourth elder. Elder Zhong bowed slightly in the direction of the fourth elder and said, "The fourth elder is mainly in charge of external affairs in the academy. He also has some battles and trials in the academy. For example, things like leading you to participate in the 10,000-year meeting are under the fourth elder's responsibility. I am under the fourth elder's command." "How many elders are there in the academy?" Princess Chi Hong could not help but ask. "There are many elders in the academy, and their cultivation realms are all different. However, there are only 9 elders with the highest status." Elder Zhong said, "The 9 elders each have their own duties and control everything in the academy. Under the patriarch are the 9 elders." While Elder Zhong was speaking, another 2 elders appeared. The 9th elder controlled the talismans of the academy. The 6th elder was a beautiful middle-aged woman with an outstanding aura. With a cold expression, she was in charge of all the buildings in the academy, including the array formations. In the blink of an eye, 7 of the 9 elders had arrived. "By the looks of it, there's a chance that the 9 elders will be gathered," Lu Ping whispered. As expected, it didn't take long before another 2 elders came together. The 3rd elder was in charge of all the immortal mountains, spirit peaks and grotto heavens of the academy. He controlled the essence spirit stones, essence spirit liquid, and other cultivation resources of the academy, and was in charge of issuing sect missions. The moment the 5th elder appeared, he caused quite a stir. It was as though there was a massive army gathered behind him, as he emitted a murderous aura, with a rumbling might that was suffocating. The 2nd elder was in charge of law enforcement, and his killing intent was sinister and cold. On the other hand, the 5th elder's murderous aura gave people a feeling of desperation. The 9 elders of Heaven and Earth Academy appeared and stood in midair, surrounding the Tao Heart staircase as their gazes landed on Su Zimo. Many cultivators were nervous and excited. It was a rare occasion for the 9 elders to gather. Most of the inner sect disciples present might not have the chance to meet the 9 elders of the academy, even after cultivating for hundreds of thousands of years. Right now, everyone was making use of such an opportunity to catch a glimpse of the 9 elders, with the help of a rank 1 heaven immortal, who had just entered the inner sect. It's unusual for the 9 elders to appear at the same time. Could there be a deeper meaning? Elder Zhong pondered for a moment, and seemed to have thought of something. His heart skipped a beat as he whispered, "Could it be?" "What?" Lu Ping could not help but ask hurriedly out of curiosity. The 9 elders might be interested in taking him in as a disciple. Elder Zhong said sternly, "Ah, Princess Chi Hong," and Lu Ping exclaimed softly. Elder Zhong said with a stern expression, "If he can become a disciple of one of the elders, he will be a legacy disciple of our academy. Su Zimo is trying to ascend to the heavens in a single step." Chapter 2281. Core Disciple. Princess Chi Hong and Lu Ping were both shocked. They had just entered the inner sect, and knew almost nothing about the core area of the academy. Elder Zhong explained, "The 9 elders are all Immortal King experts. Generally speaking, inner sect disciples will only have the chance to become core disciples of the 9 elders after reaching the true self realm. But now, Su Zimo has reached the top of the Tao Heart ladder and become the first person in the history of Qingquan Academy, alarming the 9 elders to appear at the same time. It's unknown if the 9 elders want to take him in as a disciple in advance." Lu Ping smiled and said, "I'm right to call him senior brother. Senior brother Su actually had such an opportunity." Princess Chi Hong also sighed. "If he can become a core disciple, it's indeed like reaching the heavens in a single step." The 3 of them did not talk loudly, but because the surroundings were rather quiet, Fang Qingyan and the others not far away could hear them clearly. Wishful thinking. Fang Qingyan raised his brows and said, "As everyone knows, there is a prerequisite to becoming a core disciple, and that is to reach the true self realm and become a perfected immortal. I'm just saying, Elder Zhong did not want to argue with Fang Qingyan, and replied with a smile. However, Fang Qingyan was unwilling to stop and said, Elder Zhong, you haven't been in the inner sect for long, so you should know some things. Even in the legacy lands, not all legacy disciples have the chance to become a disciple of the 9 great elders. That was indeed the truth. There were hundreds of core disciples in Qianquan Academy, but less than half of them could become disciples of the 9 elders. Fang Qingyan shook his head slightly and chuckled. Even if Su Zimo has reached the top of the Tao Heart ladder, his cultivation realm is too low. He's only a first-stage heaven immortal. How can he be qualified to become a disciple of the 9 elders? At that moment, the oldest first elder with white hair and a beard coughed softly and said slowly, Su Zimo has a strong Tao heart and good talent. However, his realm is too low, and it's difficult for him to catch your attention. Coincidentally, I'm still lacking a disciple. You're wrong. The third elder hurriedly said, It doesn't matter if his cultivation level is low. He can cultivate. I have enough elemental spirit stones, an elemental spirit liquid. If I nurture him with all my strength, he can reach the true self realm in the shortest time possible within 50,000 years. The third elder was in charge of many cultivation resources of Cosmos Academy. He naturally had the confidence to do so. You're abusing your position for personal gain, the second elder said eerily. If you violate the sect rules, I won't give you any face. After pausing for a while, the second elder continued. It is said that this boy is decisive and cold-blooded. I think he is the most suitable person to inherit my mantle. It is not impossible to let him take charge of the punishment of the academy in the future. You. The first elder raised his walking stick and knocked it a few times. He said with anger. This old man is already in his old age and doesn't have much time left. For this reason, you can't compete with me. Great elder, these are 2 different matters. The sixth elder said with a faint smile. My disciples are all female cultivators, and I happen to be lacking a male disciple. I think this Su Zimo is not bad. The sixth elder had a voluptuous figure. Although she was middle-aged, her skin was still smooth and delicate. Her aura was outstanding, and she had a unique charm when she smiled faintly. I heard that this boy went on a killing spree at the 10,000-year meeting. The fifth elder suddenly spoke with a voice that sounded like metal clashing. This boy has such a strong killing intent, and is most suitable to cultivate under my wing. Don't compete with me. In midair, the 9 elders started arguing, causing the tens of thousands of academy disciples below to be dumbfounded. In the hearts of many academy disciples, the 9 elders were high and mighty, unreachable and mysterious existences in the academy. Unexpectedly, the 9 elders were like ordinary people right now, and were arguing endlessly for a single academy disciple. None of them were willing to give in easily. Fang Qingyun's smile froze on his face with an awkward expression. It was only at this moment that he realized that the impact of ascending the Tao Heart staircase in Cosmos Academy was much greater than he had imagined. Fang Qingyun lowered his head slightly, hiding the gloominess in his eyes. If Su Zimo really entered the tutelage of the 9 elders and became a legacy disciple, then Su Zimo's status in the academy would already be above his. Originally, even if he failed this time, he also had many methods to deal with Su Zimo. But if Su Zimo was a legacy disciple, he would not dare to act rashly. On the Tao Heart staircase, Su Zimo was currently undergoing the final Tao Heart trial. He naturally could not sense everything that was happening outside. He did not know that the outside world was practically in an uproar because of his actions. The impact of the will contained on the staircase of wisdom, on Su Zimo's Tao Heart, was not as fierce and intense as the staircase of slaughter and staircase of sword Tao. However, the will of wisdom left behind on the stone steps was all-encompassing, vast and all-encompassing. Astronomy, calendar, secret arts, astrology, divination, numerology, divination. The will of wisdom on this stone step contained endless information and endless mysteries. It could see through heaven and earth, explore the vast universe, and was impossible to surmise. These things seemed to have transformed into countless strange and unfamiliar runes that contained profound heavenly secrets. They constantly attacked his sea of consciousness and swarmed in. These runes were densely packed, covering heaven and earth without end. Wu Dao's heart burned with raging flames as he constantly refined these strange runes that swarmed in from the will of wisdom. The will on the staircase of wisdom was also unable to shake Wu Dao's heart. The flames of war in Wu Dao's heart burned more and more fiercely as his fighting spirit grew stronger and stronger. But the ninth step did not seem to be just a test of the Dao heart. These countless strange runes were still attacking Su Zimo's mind. Su Zimo was in the endless dark starry sky, surrounded by endless strange runes. He felt like he was about to be drowned, and his entire head was about to explode. Although he did not recognize these runes, each rune contained the supreme wisdom of the patriarch. With his current cultivation realm, his sea of consciousness could not withstand such vast and endless runes at all. On the ninth stone step, Su Zimo's body swayed slightly, as if he was about to fall from above. In his sea of consciousness, Qinglian's essence spirit waved the Sanyu Jade Rui, wanting to block the endless strange runes around her. However, even with the power of the Sanyu Jade Rui, it could not shoot down these runes. Right at this moment, the Tai Horsetail whisk in the other hand of Qinglian's essence spirit flew out of her palm on its own, and flicked it gently in her sea of consciousness. Strangely, after the Tai Horsetail whisk flicked a few times in her sea of consciousness, the runes that surged in suddenly quietened down and became orderly. 3,000 strands of whisk, sorting out the heavenly secrets. Under the sorting of the Tai Horsetail whisk, the runes gradually left Su Zimo's mind. Strange. Su Zimo could clearly sense that there seemed to be some kind of power on the Tai Horsetail whisk that was similar to these strange runes and came from the same source. Stimulated by these strange runes, the Tai Horsetail whisk's jade-green handle shone with light, as if some seal had been opened. At the same time, a piece of legacy memory surged into Su Zimo's mind. Chapter 2282. After Qinglian's real body had advanced to the 11th stage, she had obtained this horsetail whisk. However, there were very few inherited memories about this magic treasure. She only knew that this magic treasure was called the Tai Horsetail whisk, and had no other information. Now Su Zimo had reached the 9th step. When the Tai Horsetail whisk was combing those strange runes, it seemed to have triggered some kind of restriction. A piece of inherited memory poured into his mind. The Yin Yang Charm Scripture. In this memory, there was only one secret scripture. It was divided into 2 parts with only 600 words. However, Su Zimo could not understand the contents of these 2 parts. This was because the contents were written by the strange runes that he had seen before. He did not know the meaning of each rune, nor did he know the use of the Yin Yang Charm Scripture and its connection with the Tai Horsetail whisk. Su Zimo pondered for a long time, but could not figure it out. Although the Yin Yang Charm Scripture only had 600 words, to him, it was like a book from heaven. Su Zimo stood on the Taoist heart stairs, surrounded by the wills of the 9 peerless powerhouses. The changes in his sea of consciousness could not be perceived by others. The whole process was short, but in fact, it had been more than 2 hours. Su Zimo stood on the 9th stone step for 2 whole hours. However, the 9 elders did not leave at all. They waited patiently by the side. 8th elder, if you can't wait, you can go back first. The 3rd elder said with a smile. I guess that when he finishes the trial, he won't learn forging from you. It's none of your business. The 8th elder had a hot temper and said loudly, I'll wait here. If this boy becomes my disciple, he will have enough divine weapons. It seems that this boy has successfully passed the step of wisdom that the patriarch condensed. The 1st elder nodded slightly and stroked his beard with his big hand, looking more and more satisfied. Climbing the Taoist heart stairs and passing the trial of the 9-step Taoist heart stairs were 2 different concepts, 2 different levels. Climbing the Taoist heart stairs proved that Su Zimo's Taoist heart was strong enough, and even caused the 9 elders to scramble to take him as their disciple. It was even harder to pass the trial of the 9-step Dao heart staircase. This time round, the 9 elders were even more unwilling to give in. All of them were secretly plotting how they could rope Su Zimo in after the trial ended. At this moment, The fourth elder frowned slightly. His gaze fell on Elder Xian, who was standing beside the Dao Heart stairs. He exclaimed softly, "Why is Elder Xian here instead of guarding the secret pavilion? I heard that when Yuchan and Su Zimo climbed the Dao Heart staircase, Yuchan was attacked by killing intent on the third stone step. He was the one who saved him." The ninth elder said, "Although the Dao path was destroyed, at least his life was saved." Humph. The fifth elder sneered and said, "Without cultivation, even if he survives, he'll be a cripple, no different from an ant." The second elder's face was still gloomy as he coldly said, "Since he has already saved everyone, why is old Xian still here? Don't tell me he also wants to take in a disciple?" The third elder joked. "Haha." The seventh elder chuckled and said, "What can you learn from him? Learn from him, and guard the secret pavilion? Why don't we chase him away?" The eighth elder frowned slightly and said, "He's standing so close to the Dao Heart stairs. He's an eyesore. Don't affect Su Zimo's trial." While the elders were discussing Elder Xian, the first elder did not speak. He only had a faint smile on his face. When he heard that they wanted to chase Elder Xian away, the first elder said slowly, "Forget it. After all, he's an old man of the academy. He's been in the academy longer than the patriarch. Let's give him some face and ignore him." Elder Xian was expressionless as he listened to the elders' discussion. He did not raise his head to look. The Dao Heart stairs. Su Zimo's green robes fluttered in the wind as he stood upright. He slowly opened his eyes and looked forward with a calm expression. The staircase of wisdom under his feet no longer affected him. He had passed all 9 steps of the Dao Heart stairs, but he did not leave immediately. The Dao Heart of his 2 true bodies had been completely stimulated after the trial of the Dao Heart stairs. The flames of war were ignited and burned fiercely. Su Zimo's Dao Heart had accumulated an unimaginable amount of power that had nowhere to go. Su Zimo looked at the void in front of him. His eyes were like torches. 2 balls of flame seemed to be burning in his eyes. His aura kept rising. It's hard to imagine that someone could pass all 9 steps of the Dao Heart stairs. Moreover, he's only a first-stage heavenly immortal. This Su Zimo is very likely to be the #1 person in the history of the Qingquan Academy. That's right. There was no one like him in the past. It will be very difficult for him to appear again in the future. After the dust settled, there were more discussions in the crowd. Many cultivators were filled with emotions. No one had expected that a first-stage heavenly immortal, who ascended from the lower realm, would set an unprecedented record in the Qingquan Academy. At this moment, many cultivators were secretly ashamed when they recalled their contempt and ridicule for this person at the beginning. Junior brother Su has already passed the Dao Heart stairs. Why is he still standing on it? Someone asked. He probably wants to comprehend it for a while longer, another person said. Let's disperse. There's nothing to see. Let's wait a little longer. Whether Su Zimo can become a true disciple, or which elder he will become a disciple of, has not been decided yet. I'm not going to wait. I don't want to be stimulated again. Just tell me the result later. Many cultivators had suffered a big blow this time, and were preparing to go back into seclusion to cultivate. At this moment, the figure standing on the 9th step moved again. It was still a familiar and simple action. He raised his foot and took another step toward the void in front of him. There was nothing there. Su Zimo's action was a little strange. However, when this step landed, the mountain range in the academy shook and countless birds and beasts were startled. The earth shook and the mountains shook. Thousands of beasts roared. The cultivators who were about to leave stopped in their tracks and turned around. Immediately after, the eyes of many cultivators widened as they witnessed an incomparably shocking scene that they would never forget for the rest of their lives. Beneath Su Zimo's feet, a vast well condensed on the 9th step. Streaks of light circulated and condensed, forming another layer of stone steps that was clearer and more obvious. Instantly, the world trembled and a phenomenon descended. Countless lotus flowers floated down from the skies. Golden lotuses bloomed one after another beneath Su Zimo's feet as well. Flowers fell from the skies and golden lotuses surged from the ground. Initially, those were 2 great divine powers. However, they had descended in the form of a universal phenomenon. Raging flames burned beneath Su Zimo's feet. Raging flames burned the golden lotuses. Ooh, 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 ooh. Suddenly, everyone heard a strange sound in their ears. It seemed to be able to touch everyone's mind. The essence chi, true essence and essence spirits in everyone's bodies trembled uncontrollably. Blow the conch drum! Old Xian exclaimed. Psst! The 9 elders' expressions changed at the same time. Legend has it that the sound of blowing the conch drum could only be produced when the great Tao resonated. It was only mentioned in the most ancient immortal and Buddhist sutras. The 9 elders had cultivated for hundreds of thousands of years, but they had never heard such a sound. Heaven and earth shook, and the great Tao resonated. Su Zimo took another step forward and condensed the 10th step. Chapter 2283. This time, it wasn't just the numerous students of the academy that were present here. Even the 9 elders were filled with shock. The sound of the Dharma conch and Dharma drum was not an ordinary sound at all. It was a celestial sound, a Sanskrit sound, a sound of nature. Not to mention the inner disciples, core disciples, and immortal kings like the 9 elders. Even they felt extremely small under this celestial sound. The disciples of the academy were completely stunned. Shock, confusion, disbelief. Everyone's eyes widened, and there was only one thought left in their minds. How is this possible? No one had seen the patriarch condense the 9th step, but now they actually had the chance to witness the formation of the 10th step with their own eyes. Not only did Su Zimo pass the trial of the Tao Heart Ladder, but he also created the 10th step. Above the 9th step was the 10th step. This was not a simple progression of numbers. This meant that Su Zimo's Tao heart seemed to have broken some kind of limit, and was even above the patriarch of the academy. Was this possible? Su Zimo was only a level 1 heaven immortal. Although the strength of one's Tao heart had nothing to do with one's cultivation realm, how could a level 1 heaven immortal condense a Tao heart to such an extent? Every step of the Tao heart ladder was harder and harder to condense. In order to condense the Tao heart stone steps, one had to first endure the trial of the Tao heart, and this was a huge test for most cultivators. When the patriarch of the academy in this life condensed the 9th step, everyone thought that this was the limit, the end. 9 was the limit, and it was impossible to break this limit. Who could endure the trial of the 9th step of the Tao heart ladder, and go one step further on the ladder of wisdom, to condense the 10th step? The psychological and visual impact of this scene on everyone present was too great. After passing the trial of the Tao heart ladder, Su Zimo was at most the first person in the history of the Qianquan Academy, and he attracted the 9 elders to gather and fight to take him in as a disciple. Now the 10th step of the Tao heart ladder was condensed. This could no longer be simply described as the first person in the history of the academy. This achievement was unprecedented, and it was enough to be recorded in the annals of the academy and leave a name for eternity. Oh my God! What kind of Tao heart did senior brother Su condense to be so powerful? Lu Ping's mouth was agape, and his expression was blank. He still hadn't recovered from the scene before him. Elder Zhong gulped. Now that I think about it, true immortal Yuchan's loss wasn't unjust. What sort of existence did he offend? If the news of him condensing the 10th step of the Taoist heart staircase gets out, I'm afraid it will cause a huge commotion in the divine firmament celestial realm. Princess Qi Hong muttered softly. The impact of this matter is definitely greater than that of the battle at the Millennium Meeting. In fact, Princess Qi Hong had underestimated the significance of the 10th step of the Tao heart staircase. If Su Zimo passed the 9th step of the Tao heart staircase, he would definitely cause a huge commotion in the divine firmament celestial realm. But now he had reached the 10th level, which was above the patriarch of the academy. If this news spread, the entire 9 clouds immortal region and the heaven world would be shocked. At this moment, a figure suddenly appeared in midair. No one was able to clearly see how that figure appeared. When the crowd looked over, that person was already standing there. He was wearing a green Confucian robe and had a tall and straight figure. Just by standing there with his hands behind his back, he exuded an imposing aura. The 9 elders seemed to have lowered their heads in front of that person. The patriarch is here, Elder Zhong exclaimed in surprise. Princess Chi Hong and Lu Ping instinctively looked over. When their gazes landed on the patriarch's face, it was as though they were frozen and couldn't shift their gazes away. The patriarch of the academy looked like a middle-aged man. His sideburns were a little gray, and his face was handsome and flawless. He was much younger than the 9 elders. His forehead was wide and thick, and his forehead was full. It seemed to contain infinite wisdom. The most eye-catching thing was his eyes. They were like the bright stars in the night sky, deep and mysterious. They were also like the gemstones in the deep sea, shining with a strange luster. With one look, one could not help but be immersed in it. It seemed to contain endless magic. That pair of eyes contained deep and melancholy emotions, but also a radiance that was in high spirits. There was a vast starry sky, all living beings in the world, the rumbling mortal world and all living beings. Through these eyes, everyone seemed to see a different world and a different scene. The appearance of the patriarch of the academy attracted everyone's attention. Patriarch. The 9 elders cupped their fists lightly. Greetings, patriarch. The many cultivators below bowed one after another as well. On the altar, old Xian finally raised his head and looked at the patriarch of the academy, nodding slightly. The commotion this time round is way too great. Even the patriarch is alarmed. Could the patriarch be tempted to take in a disciple now that he's here? That can't be. I heard that the patriarch has extremely high requirements for taking in disciples. Right now, he only has 6 disciples, and I heard that Fairy Mo Qing is one of them. Forming rank 10 is unprecedented. With such a Dao heart, it's not impossible for the patriarch to take a liking to her. Many cultivators whispered to each other in disgust. Patriarch, why are you? The 3rd elder asked tentatively. To be able to form rank 10 on my wisdom stair, I naturally have to come and see who's capable of doing so. The patriarch of the academy's gaze landed on Su Zimo as he praised. He's only a rank 1 heaven immortal at such a young age. How rare. Patriarch, don't tell me you're thinking of taking him in as your disciple too? The 6th elder asked bluntly. Why not? The patriarch of the academy looked at the 6th elder and smiled as he asked in return. The 6th elder's face blushed slightly as she looked into the eyes of the patriarch of the academy. She turned her head and waved her hand as she said softly, forget it. Since you want to take him in as your disciple, I'll back out. He's an unpolished gem. The patriarch of the academy said gently, I'll teach him personally. This also meant that the patriarch of the academy would take Su Zimo in as his disciple. There was almost no suspense. If he could become the disciple of the patriarch of the academy, it would naturally be better than becoming the disciple of the 9 elders. This was because there was probably no one in the academy who was more capable than the patriarch of the academy. The patriarch of the academy had very high standards for taking in disciples. Currently, he only had 6 disciples. Among them, the Moonlight Sword Immortal was famous in the Divine Cloud Continent, and the painting Fairy Mo Qing was famous in the 9 Heavens Immortal Realm. If he could become the disciple of the patriarch of the academy, he would be the junior brother of the Moonlight Sword Immortal, the painting Fairy Mo Qing. He would have the same status as them. What kind of treatment would that be? Since the patriarch of the academy has stepped in, I have nothing to say. The 2nd elder announced his withdrawal. The other elders also did not insist. The 9 elders knew that although they were all immortal kings, their abilities were far inferior to the patriarch of the academy. Even if they worked together, they would not be able to do it. I don't agree. At this moment, a voice sounded in the mind of the patriarch of the academy. Apart from him, no one else noticed it. Chapter 2284. The academy patriarch's expression didn't change when he heard this voice. He didn't seem surprised. The academy patriarch's gaze was still fixed on Su Zimo. He didn't lower his head to look at Elder Xian. He asked through his divine sense, why don't you agree? First come first serve if you want to take in a disciple. Elder Xian replied, I took a fancy to this kid first. You're too late. You want him to inherit your mantle? The academy patriarch asked again. That's right. Elder Xian said. This kid's Dao heart is unprecedentedly strong. Only such a Dao heart can shoulder the responsibility of my lineage. The Academy Patriarch said plainly. To be fair, with his talent and strong Tao heart, it'll be a waste if he inherits your mantle. Don't talk about this. Elder Xian was a little displeased. He said, my lineage has existed since the establishment of Qingkuan Academy. Our responsibilities are important, and it concerns the future of the academy. How is it a waste? Actually, in my opinion, your lineage doesn't have much meaning. The Academy Patriarch said, a few 100,000 years ago, I took over the position of the Patriarch, and you took over the position of the 10th Elder. However, so many years have passed, and the development of the academy has nothing to do with you. To be precise, the position of the 10th Elder hasn't been of any use since the establishment of Qingkuan Academy. Elder Xian was silent. He knew that the 10th Elder couldn't interfere in the academy's affairs due to his special status. Even his identity was a top secret in the Cosmos Academy. After a moment of silence, Elder Xian said, no matter what, this is the rule set by the Patriarch. You and I are in the light, and one is in the dark. How can it be broken so easily? That's right. You're in the dark. Besides the Grand Elder, the other 8 elders don't know your true identity. The Academy Patriarch sighed and asked, do you want Su Zimo to inherit your mantle and live in the dark like you? He's still young. It's too cruel to give such a heavy responsibility to him. Elder Xian fell silent once again. He lowered his head and didn't say anything. The Patriarch of the Academy added, if he becomes my disciple, I will teach and protect him. With his talent, he will definitely become famous in the 9 heavens immortal realm and live a carefree and happy life. What's wrong with that? I can understand your love for talent. However, for the sake of your bloodline's inheritance, you're placing all the heavy burdens that were originally on your shoulders on him. Isn't that a bit too selfish? Hey! Elder Xian was silent for a long time. Suddenly he let out a weird laugh and said, I'm not like you. My lineage is only passed down through a single generation. Now that I've finally met a good one, I definitely won't miss this opportunity. But I've already shown myself here, and said that I would take him as my disciple. Don't tell me that I'm going to go back on my word in front of all these disciples? The Patriarch of the Academy felt helpless and smiled bitterly. I don't care. Elder Xian rolled his eyes. The Patriarch of the Academy couldn't help but sigh when he saw that Elder Xian wasn't willing to back down. The melancholy in his eyes seemed to have deepened. How about this? Both of us will take a step back. A moment later, the Patriarch of the Academy said, I've already said that I would take him as my disciple. Of course, I won't go back on my word. I can take him as an in-name disciple first. When he reaches the true self realm and becomes a true immortal, he can choose whether to become my disciple or inherit your legacy. What do you think? That's fair. Elder Xian rolled his eyes and said, this is also respecting his wishes. No matter who he becomes, it's his own choice. Besides, he's only a heaven immortal. His cultivation is too low. If he's promoted to a core disciple, it might not be a good thing for him. After a short pause, Elder Xian continued, you should take him as an in-name disciple first, and let him train in the inner sect. If he enters the core area, he'll be surrounded by true immortals. I'm afraid he won't have an easy time. At this moment, the 10th step under Su Zimo's feet was completed. Su Zimo stood on the 10th step, and closed his eyes for a long time. He recalled the tempering of the 9 Tao hearts. The Tao hearts of his 2 true bodies became more perfect and indestructible. After the 10th step was completed, the flames of war in the Tao hearts of his 2 true bodies were extinguished. The 10th step was called the Wu Dao step. Su Zimo left the will of his 2 true bodies on it. Anyone who stepped onto the 10th step would have to bear the impact of Wu Dao's will. It was an unimaginably vast power that burned like fire and could incinerate everything. Those who didn't have a strong Tao heart would even be incinerated by the flames on the 10th step. After a long time, Su Zimo slowly opened his eyes. The surroundings were eerily quiet. Sensing something, Su Zimo raised his head instinctively and saw 9 old men surrounding the Tao heart staircase, all of them looking at him. Their gazes were either cold, benevolent, friendly or appreciative. Su Zimo's gaze swept past the 9 elders and landed on another man in scholarly robes. Their gazes met gently in midair. Su Zimo's mind buzzed, and he instantly recalled the countless strange runes that appeared on the stairway of wisdom. In the eyes of the scholarly robed man, Su Zimo seemed to be able to see the endless starry sky, the dark and boundless deep sea, as well as countless astronomical almanacs and secret skills of star divination. It was as though all the mysteries of heaven and earth could not escape those eyes. "You're good." The scholarly robed man spoke with a deep and magnetic voice. Su Zimo's mind jolted, and he snapped to his senses. He exchanged glances with the scholarly robed man, and realized that the person before him was the person who condensed the 9th step of the Tao Heart Step, the Patriarch of Heaven and Earth Academy. "Greetings, Patriarch." Su Zimo bowed. Even he did not realize that the condensation of the 10th step of the Tao Heart Step had alarmed the Patriarch of the Academy. "You might have to change your way of addressing me next." The Patriarch of the Academy smiled gently. Su Zimo was slightly stunned. Previously, he was completely immersed in the condensation of the 10th step, and did not know what was happening outside. The Patriarch of the Academy surveyed his surroundings and said, "When you ascended the 9th step of the Tao Heart Step, the 9 elders of the Academy appeared at the same time, and wanted to take you in as their disciple. Later on, even I was tempted when you condensed the 10th step." At that point, the Patriarch of the Academy smiled and continued, "However, your cultivation realm is insufficient. If I take you in as a legacy disciple directly, it would be unfair to the other legacy disciples. I'll take you in as an in-name disciple first. If you can step into the true self realm one day and become a perfected immortal, it won't be too late for you to become my disciple." After pausing for a moment, the Patriarch of the Academy's gaze seemed to have inadvertently swept past Elder Xian on the altar and continued, "Of course, if you want to become a disciple of the other elders after you become a perfected immortal, it's up to you as well." Chapter 2285. When the elders heard this, they were all puzzled. According to the original intention of the Academy Patriarch, he should have taken Su Zimo in as a personal disciple directly. Why did he become an in-name disciple at the last minute? The elders naturally did not know what happened during this period that caused the Academy Patriarch to change his mind. The Grand Elder's expression changed as he looked at old Xian on the altar thoughtfully. "Su Zimo." The Academy Patriarch had a gentle expression as he looked at Su Zimo with a smile. "Are you willing to be my in-name disciple temporarily?" "I'm willing." Su Zimo bowed and replied in a deep voice. Although he was only an in-name disciple, there were no disadvantages for him to be able to become the disciple of the Academy Patriarch, and he had no reason to refuse. Many cultivators present revealed deep envy in their eyes. Even if he was just an in-name disciple, his status far surpassed that of an inner sect disciple. This was the in-name disciple of the Academy Patriarch. As long as nothing unexpected happened, he would definitely become the Patriarch's personal disciple in the future. At that moment, Tang Peng had already woken up, and was unable to accept the scene before him. He did not expect that he had merely fallen from the Tao Heart stairs and fainted. By the time he woke up, the Heaven Immortal who had just entered the inner sect had already soared into the sky, and his status was even above his. The flow of fate seemed mysterious and cruel at this moment. "Senior Brother Fong, how could this be?" Tang Peng was still in disbelief as he clenched his fists and gritted his teeth. "How did this person jump above us?" Don't panic, don't panic." Fong Qingyun's expression was calm as he sent a voice transmission. "This Su Zimo is only an in-name disciple, and not a true personal disciple. We still have a chance." Right at that moment, the Academy Patriarch retracted his smile and looked around. Every disciple of the Academy had a feeling that the Patriarch was looking at them. "Everyone of Qianquan Academy, listen up." The Patriarch of the Academy said slowly, "What happened today is about the Taoist Heart Ladder and Su Zimo's nominal disciple. Without my permission, no one is allowed to spread it out. Those who intentionally leak the information will be punished with the same crime as those who harm their fellow disciples. Kill without mercy." Ever since the Patriarch of the Academy showed up, he had always been gentle and polite. He even smiled from time to time, giving people a feeling of closeness. But now, after the patriarch of the academy said those words, his body exuded a kind of pressure and killing intent that belonged to a superior. Not to mention the disciples present. Even the 9 elders' expressions turned cold. Fang Qingyun's expression froze, and his face turned ugly. Initially, he was still thinking about how he could turn the tables and scheme against Su Zimo. But now, the words of the patriarch of the academy caused his heart to tremble, and all the thoughts from before vanished instantly. Fang Qingyun even had an illusion that the patriarch of the academy had seen through his thoughts, and that his words were a warning to him. Patriarch, what is the meaning of this? Lu Ping couldn't help but ask. If news of what happened today were to spread, it would definitely cause a huge commotion in the divine firmament immortal domain. Elder Zhong explained. At that time, countless gazes and the attention of countless people will converge on Su Zimo. This is equivalent to pushing Su Zimo to the cusp of the storm. In that position, who knows how much danger and hostility he will have to endure. Now, the patriarch of the academy forbids the people of the academy from spreading this matter. It is actually a form of protection for Su Zimo. Lu Ping nodded while seeming to understand. Princess Qi Hong frowned and asked, but the matter today caused such a huge commotion, and so many people of the Universe Academy witnessed it with their own eyes. Even if someone intentionally leaked it, how would we know who did it? Haha, this is the strength of the patriarch. Elder Zhong smiled and said, he has supreme wisdom, and can see through the secrets of the heavens. He is omniscient, who has the confidence to hide from the patriarch's senses, and risk being killed to leak this matter. Moreover, even if 1 or 2 people leaked it, others would definitely not believe it. A stage 1 heaven immortal passed the 9-step Tao Heart Staircase trial, and even created the 10th step. He was accepted as an in-name disciple by the patriarch of the academy. If we did not witness it with our own eyes, who would believe it? Princess Qi Hong and Lu Ping hurriedly nodded and felt deeply moved. Even though they had witnessed it with their own eyes, an extremely unreal feeling arose in their hearts, and did not dissipate for a long time. Everyone, you may leave. Su Zimo, stay behind. The patriarch of the academy said plainly. The 9 elders retreated at the first moment. Their figures all disappeared into the void. Their methods were astonishing. The other cultivators also left quickly. Not long after, only the patriarch of the academy, Elder Xian, and Su Zimo were left on the altar. You can understand my intentions, right? The patriarch of the academy looked at Su Zimo and asked gently. Su Zimo hesitated for a moment and nodded. The tallest tree in the forest will be destroyed by the wind. The patriarch of the academy said, your current cultivation realm is too low. It won't do you any good if this matter is spread. When your cultivation realm is enough to withstand all of this, I will naturally announce this matter to the public. Su Zimo said, I understand. The patriarch of the academy nodded slightly and continued, since you are an in-name disciple, you should first train in the inner sect. Of course, if you have any doubts about your cultivation, you can look for me anytime. You can look for me too. Elder Xian suddenly interrupted from the side. Su Zimo was slightly stunned. Elder Xian was only an old man guarding the secret pavilion. This action seemed to be a little overboard and inappropriate. However, Su Zimo saw that the patriarch of the academy's expression was normal, and did not have any intention of reprimanding him. He could not help but mutter in his heart. Su Zimo did have one doubt about his cultivation. It was the strange runes of more than 600 words in the Yin-Yang Talisman scripture. These runes were very similar to the runes on the steps of wisdom, on the Tao Heart ladder. Su Zimo was almost certain that the patriarch of the academy definitely recognized these strange runes, and could solve his doubts. However, the Yin-Yang Talisman scripture originated from the Tai Horsetail Whisk, and the Tai Horsetail Whisk originated from the real body of Qinglian. Su Zimo was worried that the Yin-Yang Talisman scripture would contain some information about the creation of Qinglian, and expose the existence of the real body of Qinglian. Although he was already a disciple of the patriarch of the academy, Su Zimo was still in the upper world. Out of caution, he did not take this risk. Hey, Old Xian glanced sideways at the patriarch of the academy and raised his brows. An unnamed disciple is still a disciple. No matter what, you have to give him a gift. The patriarch of the academy pondered for a moment and smiled. Suddenly, a small jade token appeared in his hand. The token was engraved with a few exquisite patterns. When Old Xian saw the token, he nodded in a rare manner and urged Su Zimo. This is not bad. Hurry and accept it. It can save your life at a critical moment. This is a teleportation jade token. The patriarch of the academy said. As long as you're in the heaven realm, no matter where you are, as long as you encounter danger that you can't resist, crush this token, and you will be able to return to Qingquan Academy at any time. This teleportation jade token was equivalent to the major transference talisman of Tianhuang mainland. However, in the upper world, only immortal kings whose cultivation had reached the Grotto Heaven realm had the ability to travel freely in the void. In that case, this teleportation jade token was indeed a life-saving jade token. It was extremely difficult to refine such a teleportation jade token. Generally speaking, only the most prized and favored successor disciples of immortal kings would be able to obtain one. Book Guest Residence Reading Website. Chapter 2286. Su Zimo took the teleportation jade badge and kept it in his pocket. He was secretly delighted. This item was the real life-saving measure. Back in the Tianhuang continent, Xianbei's master had given him a teleportation talisman, which was similar to this teleportation jade badge. It allowed him to escape from the pursuit of a half-martial ancestor. Elder Xian said, Su Zimo, if you want to increase your cultivation in the heavenly origin realm, seclusion is not enough. When you are in the earth origin realm, as long as you are talented enough and spend most of your time in seclusion, you can reach the 8th or 9th rank of the earth immortal realm. However, in the heavenly origin realm, you need to have enough experience. It's best if you have great opportunities and fortuitous encounters. Thank you for your advice. Su Zimo bowed slightly. On the path of cultivation, opportunities and fortuitous encounters were extremely important to a cultivator. It was a part of one's luck. Yin Ting's cultivation speed was fast not only because he specialized in the way of the sword, but also because he had obtained a few great opportunities. Those opportunities and fortuitous encounters would make even heaven immortals and true immortals jealous. Of course, I've heard that you have offended many people in the Divine Cloud continent. Be careful when you go out. Elder Xian reminded him again. Su Zimo immediately acknowledged. Elder Xian was not his master, but for some reason, his attitude toward him was somewhat unusual. The patriarch of the college did not seem to be surprised by this. His expression was calm. I'll take my leave first. Elder Xian waved his hand and took a step forward, disappearing into the void. Gasp! Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat. Only a Celestial King realm expert could do this. He did not expect the old man guarding the Earth-rank secret pavilion to be a Celestial King realm expert, who seemed to have a special status in the college. You have just reached the heavenly origin realm. You should cultivate in seclusion for a while to stabilize your cultivation and strengthen your foundation. The patriarch of the college said, Many things have happened today. I won't disturb you any longer. After saying this, the patriarch of the college turned around and was about to leave. Su Zimo opened his mouth slightly, but hesitated. What's the matter? The patriarch of the college noticed Su Zimo's strange behavior and asked with a gentle expression. Sect leader, when we were on the way back to the academy from the Flaming Sun Immortal Kingdom, we were intercepted by an expert. Who is he? Asked the patriarch of the gods, who was the Celestial King realm expert. He could tell that the voice of the sect leader of the academy belonged to the person who had saved them. The patriarch of the academy did not answer. After a while, the clan master of the academy shook his head and said, I can't tell you his identity for the time being. But don't worry, he won't attack you in the future. Su Zimo asked. Yes. The clan master of the academy nodded and said, The gap between the two of you is too big. Revealing his identity now won't do you any good. When your cultivation is strong enough, I can tell you his identity. Su Zimo was silent. He did not ask further. Take it as if nothing happened. Don't think too much about it. The most important thing for you is to focus on your cultivation and raise your cultivation as soon as possible. The patriarch of the academy reminded him again before turning to leave. Su Zimo took a deep breath. The patriarch of the academy was right. Right now the most important thing for him was to raise his cultivation realm. Su Zimo prepared to go into seclusion again. He had gained a lot from the 10,000-year meeting this time. The weak Nirvana Sutra was complete. If he continued to comprehend it, his essence spirit would definitely be improved. The hell-suppressing cauldron was also completely repaired. He had not cultivated the inheritance secret skill on the fourth cauldron wall. There was also the Tai Horsetail Whisk and the Yin Yang Talisman Sutra. There were too many things to comprehend in seclusion this time. At that thought, Su Zimo no longer hesitated. He turned and left the altar. He sped towards his cave abode and entered seclusion. Although he was in seclusion, the impact of this matter in Qianquan Academy was still ongoing. For a long time in the future, he would be the center of discussion among the disciples of the academy. After this matter, the number of disciples of the academy who climbed the Tao Heart Staircase increased significantly. However, to everyone the Tao Heart Staircase was still the Tao Heart Staircase, and no one else had done anything shocking. Most of the disciples of the academy were still unable to surpass the third step. What everyone discussed the most was what kind of Tao Heart and will Su Zimo left behind on the 10th step. However, no one could ascend it, and naturally did not know what was going on up there. A year later, the Tao Heart Staircase gradually returned to being deserted, and no one came for a few days. This night, there was no one near the Tao Heart Staircase. All of a sudden, a figure in scholarly robes appeared above the Tao Heart Staircase without warning. After the figure appeared, he waved his sleeves gently and formed an invisible barrier around the Tao Heart Staircase, isolating it from the outside world. The scholarly robed man looked at the Tao Heart Staircase with a strange luster in his deep eyes. A moment later, the scholarly robed man stepped onto the first step of the Tao Heart Staircase. In just a few breaths, the scholarly robed man ascended to the second step. After a few more breaths, the scholarly robed man ascended to the third step. The Tao Heart trial on the Tao Heart Staircase seemed to have little impact on the scholarly robed man. The scholarly robed man walked up the stairs and only paused slightly at each step. It did not cause much of a disturbance to him at all. In the blink of an eye, the scholarly robed man had already ascended to the 8th step. At this moment, another disciple of the academy passed by and glanced over with a calm expression. The scholarly robed man stood on the 8th step of the Tao Heart Staircase, but in the eyes of this cultivator, there was still no one on the Tao Heart Staircase. This was a method similar to a camouflage, but extremely brilliant. Even if an immortal king descended, he might not be able to see through it. If this disciple of the academy could see the scholarly robed man on the Tao Heart Staircase, he would definitely be shocked. That was because the scholarly robed man climbing the Tao Heart Staircase was the patriarch of the academy. This disciple of the academy passed by and left quickly without stopping. The patriarch of the academy looked calm as he took another step and ascended to the 9th step. The 9th step was the step of wisdom that he had condensed. This level of willpower of the Tao Heart naturally had no effect on him. The patriarch of the academy raised his head slightly and looked at the stone steps above the 9th step. He smiled slightly and murmured softly, "I'm a little curious. What would a Tao Heart that can surpass mine be like?" As he spoke, the patriarch of the academy lifted the hem of his scholarly robe and stepped onto the 10th step. The moment his foot stepped onto the 10th step, an unimaginably vast willpower descended from the sky and surged over like a volcano erupting and a raging sea surging into the sky. The patriarch of the academy had never felt such a powerful willpower of the Tao Heart. Great fearlessness, great courage, great boldness, and great wisdom. Even if there were millions of people, I would still go forward. The sky could not cover it, and the earth could not bury it. This Tao Heart was brighter than the stars in the heavens, shining with boundless light and raging flames. Even his Tao Heart was unable to resist the will. It began to burn. The patriarch of the academy's expression changed drastically. His body shook, and he fell from the Tao Heart staircase. He was still in mid-air, but he stabilized his body and slowly landed on the ground. He had failed. The patriarch of the academy had a complicated expression. Even he could not touch the 10th step of the Tao Heart staircase. Scholars Residence Reading Website. Chapter 2287. Ha 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 ha. At this moment, an ear-piercing laughter came from behind the academy patriarch. The academy patriarch didn't turn around, but he wasn't surprised. There were less than 10 people in the academy who could see through his trick, and this person behind him was one of them. Elder Xian stood not far away and crossed his arms. He was gloating and mocking. I didn't expect you to have such a day, hee. What a coincidence. The sect master of the academy turned around and looked at Elder Xian, who was not far away, as he asked with a smile. Heh, this isn't a coincidence. Elder Xian twisted his lips and said, I've been waiting for you for a year. Others don't know you, but I do. With your temper, you wouldn't be able to tolerate someone who could form the 10th step on your steps of wisdom. But I didn't expect you to be able to tolerate it for a year before sneaking over. If you didn't come, I would have left. The academy patriarch didn't show any embarrassment after being seen through. He only shook his head and laughed. You're really free. Hee. Elder Xian laughed again and said, Not only did you sneak over, but you also set up a trick to prevent others from finding out. You're obviously not confident. You know you can't pass the 10th step. Elder Xian and the academy patriarch had known each other for many years. Elder Xian was extremely intelligent and meticulous. He had never seen the academy patriarch suffer. Now that the academy patriarch was embarrassed, Elder Xian was very excited. Let's not talk about me. Do you want to try? The academy patriarch smiled and asked. I'm not going to try. Elder Xian rolled his eyes and twisted his lips. What if I can't even pass your steps of wisdom? Won't it be embarrassing? You want to catch me red-handed? No way. The academy patriarch smiled. But come to think of it, Elder Xian suddenly asked seriously, what's the Tao Heart's will on the 10th step? I'm not sure. The patriarch of the academy shook his head and said, This kind of willpower is extremely brave and powerful. It has the sharpness of Sword Tao, unyielding resistance, fearlessness, and freedom. I've seen millions of Tao Hearts, but I've never seen a Tao Heart like this. Who cares? Elder Xian waved his hand and said, Anyway, he's a good seedling. When he becomes a true immortal, we'll see who can take him in. No problem. The patriarch of the academy nodded and smiled. He flicked his sleeves and was about to leave. What? You're not going to try again after failing once? Elder Xian raised his eyebrows and instigated. If I try again and fail, won't I be mocked by you again? The voice of the patriarch of the academy was heard, but his figure had already disappeared. At the same time, the camouflage around the Tao Heart stairs disappeared without a trace. A gentle breeze blew past, but there was no one beside the Taoist Heart stairs. Elder Xian had also left at some point. Peace was restored here. In a cave abode in the inner sect, a level 9 heavenly immortal was done with his teasing. He slowly opened his eyes and floated down from the futon. It was the inner sect disciple of the academy, young Wuxia. Not far away, there was a young boy standing there. Young master, your seclusion this time was so short? The boy quickly brewed a pot of tea and served it to young Wuxia. My cultivation has hit a bottleneck. It's hard to improve if I just cultivate in seclusion. Young Wuxia shook his head slightly and took the teacup. He took a deep sniff and drank the hot tea in one gulp. He had been a level 9 heavenly immortal for some time. But to break through the barrier between heavenly immortal and true immortal was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. The gap between heavenly immortal and true immortal was like a huge chasm. Even if the mystic Ian, earth Ian, and sky Ian were added together, they could not compare. There were hundreds of thousands of inner sect disciples in the academy. Many of them were stuck at the level 9 heavenly immortal level. There were even some level 9 heavenly immortals who could not become true immortals their entire lives and step into the true self realm. As for these level 9 heavenly immortals, As they grew older and saw that there was no hope for them to break through, they could only take on the role of elder in the inner sect. Those who could enter the Qianquan Academy were all geniuses who had been selected by the waves. But even so, there were still many who could not step into the true self realm. It was clear how difficult it was. One had to know that there were only a few hundred core disciples in the academy. Young Ruoxu was not in a hurry and was calm. He was not old, less than 100,000 years old. He had enough time. As long as he had a fortuitous encounter or some rare opportunity, he might be able to step into the true self realm. Did anything happen in the academy in the past year? Young Ruoxu asked casually. The boy said, nothing much. In the past year, the most discussed topic in the academy was young Master Su's passing of the Dao Heart Ladder and forming the level 10. Oh, young Ruoxu replied indifferently. This matter has a huge impact and might become the topic of discussion in the academy for a period of time in the future. Young Master, I heard that you have a close relationship with young Master Su. Why didn't you meet him this time round? The boy was curious and frowned slightly. Young Master, you're a lone wolf in the inner sect without any close friends. Isn't it good to interact more with young Master Su? A year ago, when Su Zimo passed the trial of the Dao Heart Ladder and formed the level 10, young Ruoxu received the news immediately. However, he did not head to the Dao Heart Ladder and chose to meet Su Zimo to congratulate him. The boy was happy to see young Ruoxu that day and specially opened a jar of wine, standing in front of his cave abode to congratulate Su Zimo from afar. The boy was puzzled. Young Ruoxu said, I have many enemies in the academy. Interacting with him will only bring him trouble. That won't happen. The boy said, the only ones who have some enmity with you are Fang Qingyan and the others. I heard that young Master Su has already been accepted as a disciple by the Patriarch. If you can interact more with him, Fang Qingyan and the others will definitely not dare to find trouble with you. Young Ruoxu remained silent and merely shook his head. He knew that Su Zimo had been accepted as an in-name disciple by the Patriarch of the Academy. However, there was a huge difference between an in-name disciple and a true disciple. Furthermore, even if they were a true disciple, Su Zimo would be ranked behind the Moonlight Sword Immortal. Be it status or cultivation realm, Su Zimo was inferior to the Moonlight Sword Immortal. He had a feeling that the one who wanted to deal with him was not Fang Qingyun and the others, but the personal disciple of the Patriarch of the Academy, the Moonlight Sword Immortal. The origin of this hostility was because of the immortal sex selection more than 1,000 years ago. That time, he was spared because of the appearance of the painting Immortal Mo Qing. A year ago, there was another change in the outer sect of the academy. That time, for some reason, when he was in danger, the painting Immortal Mo Qing actually appeared again and saved him. Was this just a coincidence? End of chapter. Daoist Qingyan, what's going on? Xie Tianhong asked with a frown. Everyone, please take a seat. Fang Qingyan wasn't in a hurry to explain. After everyone was seated, he said in a deep voice, I gathered all of you here today because in the past year, a few of you have sent me messages asking about Su Zimo. Of course, I'm aware of your intentions. Duke Yuanzhua, Xie Tianhong, and the other three exchanged glances with a tacit understanding. Everyone more or less knew about the feud between the few of them and Su Zimo. Duke Yuanzhua laughed. I didn't expect that apart from me, there would be so many experts who want to kill him. I don't have any feud with him. I was just entrusted by senior sister Meng Yao to take his life. Heavenly Immortal Returnants said calmly. Pang Yi said coldly, he killed my brother in the clan. I want him to pay with his blood. Xie Tianhong didn't explain. The reason he wanted to deal with Su Zimo was to curry favor with Zither Immortal Meng Yao. After listening to everyone, Fang Qingyan said slowly, fellow Taoists, forgive me for being blunt. It's not easy to deal with Su Zimo now. He has just become a heavenly immortal. Any one of us can easily kill him. What's so difficult about that? Duke Yuanzhua sneered. We just have to find an opportunity to wait for him to leave Qianquan Academy. Fang Qingyan was silent. The Patriarch of the Academy had issued a gag order. He naturally didn't dare to tell outsiders what happened in the inner sect of the academy. Pang Yi saw that Fang Qingyan was silent, and thought that he was in a difficult position because of their friendship. He said, "Fellow Taoist Qingyan, if Su Zimo leaves Qingquan Academy, you just have to send the news to us. You don't have to do anything." Fang Qingyan shook his head. Even if he leaves Qingquan Academy, it's still not easy to kill him on Divine Cloud Continent. Su Zimo had been accepted as an in-name disciple by the Patriarch of the Academy. On Divine Cloud Continent, if Duke Yuanzhua and the others mobilized a large number of experts to kill Su Zimo, it was very likely that they would attract the attention of the Patriarch of the Academy. "Brother Qingyan, what do you mean?" Duke Yuanzhua's heart skipped a beat. He heard some hidden meaning. Fang Qingyan didn't explain and said, "In short, I've gathered everyone here today because I want to tell everyone that you must not act rashly and alert the enemy. It's not impossible to deal with Su Zimo, but you need to be patient and wait for an opportunity. Everyone, don't worry. If there is any good opportunity, I will tell you immediately. At that time, please use all the strength you can. Don't underestimate the enemy and kill him." Xie Tianhong said, "That's enough. There's no hurry to kill him. However, there are too many monks and too little meat. When the time comes, let's see which of us can snatch his head." Duke Yuanzhua narrowed his eyes. "If the four of us join forces, as long as we wait for an opportunity, he will definitely die." Demon territory. After 1,000 years, the Heaven Baron sect had developed extremely quickly in this corner of the demon territory. Sky Wolf had the memories and experience of his previous life. He used to be the demon king of 7 emotions, so he was very familiar with how to expand, devour, and unite. It had to be said that in this aspect, no one was more suitable than Sky Wolf. In the first few decades, Wu Dao's original body helped Sky Wolf get rid of a few difficult bones and powerful opponents. Later, Wu Dao's original body handed almost everything of the Heaven Baron sect to Sky Wolf, allowing him to manage and develop it, while he chose to go into seclusion to deduce Wu Dao. After 1,000 years, the territory of the Heaven Baron sect was dozens of times larger than before. It had become the strongest Xian-level sect in the vicinity. Chapter 2289. The Heaven Baron sect grew stronger day by day, but it was difficult to break through the upper limit. Without a perfected immortal, no matter how large the territory was and how many people it had, it was only a Xian-level sect. For thousands of years, Wu Dao's original body had never stopped deducing Wu Dao's cultivation methods. The many cultivation methods and secret techniques that Qinglian's original body had passed to him, such as the Prajna Nirvana Sutra, were of great help to him, and he gained a lot of insights. However, there was still a long way to go before he could deduce the next cultivation method. Although the Heaven Baron sect had been established and expanded for thousands of years, he had not met any old friends from the Heaven Baron continent. Wu Dao's original body was not surprised by this. The demon's territory and the 9 heavens immortal realm were both vast and boundless. Qinglian's original body had ascended for many years, but she had only met an old friend from the Heaven Baron continent hundreds of thousands of years ago. Wu Dao's original body was in a corner of the demon's territory, so it was not easy to meet an old friend. Over the years, Wu Dao's original body had not consumed any cultivation resources, and his cultivation realm had not improved at all. He was still at the perfected 9th level of the Fate Wheel realm. For the current Wu Dao's original body, elemental spirit stones and elemental spirit liquid were useless. If he did not have the next cultivation method, no amount of cultivation resources would be of any help to him. With the help of the memories of his previous life, and the help of a large number of cultivation resources, Sky Wolf's cultivation realm had improved by leaps and bounds. In fact, in a sense, Sky Wolf was also a reincarnated immortal, and he was even stronger than immortal Tai Hua and Feng Yin. Tai Hua and Feng Yin were only perfected immortals in their previous lives. Sky Wolf was the demon king of 7 emotions in his previous life, and he had followed Emperor Bo Sun. Whether it was cultivation experience or vision, he was far superior to others. Sky Wolf used a secret technique to improve the physical body of this moon-swallowing Sky Wolf by several levels. It could be said that he had been reborn. 1,000 years ago, this moon-swallowing Sky Wolf was only a level 9 mystic immortal. Now, his cultivation realm had broken through to the heavenly origin realm. Even Yin Ting couldn't compare to such a cultivation speed. On the other hand, Yen Beichen had the Hatred Sutra as his foundation. The hatred in his heart was so strong that it had already seeped into his bones. Cultivating the Devil Execution Sutra was like having the help of the gods. His cultivation realm had also improved by leaps and bounds. Of course, even though Yen Beichen's cultivation had increased quickly, he still couldn't compare to Sky Wolf, who had the memories of his previous life. After 1,000 years, Yen Beichen had already reached the 9th tier of the Earth Immortal Realm. His cultivation speed was also extremely terrifying. Many demonic arts were unconventional and could be cultivated very quickly. However, the hidden dangers that accompanied them were also very obvious. Back then, Yen Beichen cultivated the Devil Execution Scripture because his primordial spirit was severely injured and was on the verge of death. Even Wu Dao's original body was helpless. The only way to save his life was to cultivate the Devil's Mantra. Back then, Sky Wolf had once said that cultivating the Devil Aversion Sutra could only temporarily suppress Yen Beichen's primordial spirit injury and alleviate it. If there were any unforeseen circumstances, it would erupt again in the future. Over the past 1,000 years, while the Heaven Baron sect had been expanding, they had also been constantly looking for healing elixirs that could heal the primordial spirit. However, such elixirs were too precious. Not to mention this remote corner of the realm of demons, they might not even be able to find them in other places of the realm of demons, or in some large sections. On this day, Wu Dao's original body was cultivating in seclusion. Suddenly, there was the sound of clothes fluttering in the air outside. The person was extremely fast. "Master!" Sky Wolf's voice sounded. Wu Dao's heart sank. He heard a trace of strangeness in Sky Wolf's voice, and had a premonition that something big might have happened. He opened his eyes and directly came out of seclusion. "What's wrong?" Wu Dao's original body asked directly. "Yen Beichen is dying." Sky Wolf shrugged slightly and spread out his hands. At this level of cultivation, he could completely transform into a human. Now, standing in front of Su Zimo, was a burly man with short silver hair and a ferocious look in his eyes. Sky Wolf did not have any feelings for Yen Beichen, but he knew that Wu Dao's original body and Yen Beichen were close friends, and he could not hide this matter. "Injuries to the primordial spirit?" Wu Dao's original body asked. Sky Wolf nodded and said, "I've said long ago that cultivating the fiendish mantra can only suppress the injuries of his primordial spirit at most. There's no way to heal it, and it can erupt at any time. Some time ago, he went into seclusion to cultivate and prepare to break through the barrier of the heavenly origin realm, but he didn't expect to fail and cause the injuries of his primordial spirit to erupt. Even his obsession and demonic chi can't suppress his injuries." "Where is he?" Wu Dao's original body asked. "In the Heaven Baron Palace," Sky Wolf replied. Wu Dao's original body did not say a word and directly set off for the Heaven Baron Palace. It did not take long for him to arrive outside the palace. In the palace, Yen Beichen leaned against a chair. His face was pale and bloodless, and his eyes were half closed. The life force in his body was weak, and it was obvious that he was at the end of his life. In addition to him, there were 7 other heaven immortal experts in the palace. There were both men and women, and their cultivation levels were extremely high. They were all level 8 and level 9 heaven immortals. When these heaven immortal experts saw Wu Dao's original body arrive, their bodies trembled, and they hurriedly got up. They had heard of this person's fierce reputation. The 7 of them knew that on the surface, Sky Wolf was in charge of the Heaven Baron sect. But in fact, the real master of the Heaven Baron sect was this mysterious purple-robed man with a silver mask. Wu Dao's original body came in front of Yen Beichen and released his divine sense to explore Yen Beichen's body. Under the silver mask, he frowned and looked solemn. Yen Beichen's condition was extremely bad. To be precise, if it were not for the obsessive demonic qi cultivated from the fiendish mantra that maintained the remaining life force in Yen Beichen's body, he would have died long ago. You're here. Yen Beichen seemed to have sensed something. He struggled to open his eyes and glanced at Su Zimo. The corners of his mouth twitched and he forced a smile. Woo-woo. In his arms, the white ferret whimpered softly and was extremely sad. I can't fight with you anymore. You have to walk your own path in the future, Yen Beichen said with difficulty. He only said one sentence, and took a few breaths in between. Brother Yen, there must be a way to save you. Wu Dao's original body turned to look at Sky Wolf and asked, You once said that the complete cultivation technique that Emperor Bo Sun cultivates is called the fiendish mantra of Buddhism. If we can find the other part of the fiendish mantra of Buddhism, will it be able to heal his primordial spirit? There is indeed hope, but Sky Wolf looked troubled and paused for a moment before saying, Emperor Bo Sun imparted the fiendish mantra of Buddhism to me so that I can control the mask of Mara. Only obsession can sever the 7 emotions. I don't know the fiendish mantra of Buddhism at all. You don't know it, but Emperor Bo Sun definitely knows it. Wu Dao's original body said indifferently, but Emperor Bo Sun has been dead for many years. Sky Wolf said, Furthermore, he doesn't have any disciples. It's impossible for anyone in this world to know the complete fiendish mantra of Buddhism. You said that Emperor Bo Sun died in the Pure Land? Wu Dao's original body asked again. That's right. That battle back then. Before Sky Wolf could finish, he suddenly paused as though he had thought of something. A trace of fear flashed through his eyes as he asked with a trembling voice. Why you can't be thinking of going to the place where Emperor Bo Sun died to find the fiendish mantra of Buddhism, right? That's the only place where we can find the complete cultivation technique. Wu Dao's original body said in a deep voice. You're crazy. Sky Wolf shook his head and said, That's impossible. You can't go there at all. Where did he die? Wu Dao's original body asked again, his eyes blazing like torches. At. Sky Wolf hesitated for a long time before slowly saying, Avicii Hell. End of chapter. Chapter 2290. Avicii Hell. Even with Wu Dao's temperament, his expression changed slightly when he heard those words. In an ancient era in the upper realm, a peerless powerhouse was born in Buddhism. In order to suppress many evil spirits, he refined his own flesh and blood into a purgatory. In order to suppress this prison, this powerhouse forged an unprecedented peerless weapon, the prison suppression cauldron. Inside the cauldron, there was a forbidden Buddhist scripture, the Prajna Nirvana Sutra. The 4 walls of the cauldron were fused with the souls of the 4 sacred beasts, greatly increasing the power of the prison suppression cauldron. This peerless powerhouse's Taoist name was Avicii, and he was known as Emperor Avicii. The purgatory refined by Emperor Avicii's flesh and blood was the Avicii Hell. Wu Dao could understand why Emperor Avicii set up the Avicii Hell in the Pure Land of Bliss. After all, Emperor Avicii came from the Pure Land of Bliss. But how did Emperor Bo Sun die in the Avicii Hell? According to what you said, Emperor Avicii was a peerless powerhouse in an ancient era. Emperor Bo Sun was a powerhouse in this era. So how did he die in the Avicii Hell? Wu Dao asked with a frown. Since ancient times, the Avicii Hell has always been a forbidden area in the upper realm. Sky Wolf said. Legend has it that if one falls into the Avicii Hell, even an emperor can't escape. There are 3 Avicii, Time Avicii, Space Avicii, and the Receiver Avicii. After the Avicii era, it was the Longevity era, and after that it was the current era. Legend has it that the Longevity Emperor came to the Heaven Realm and stopped in front of the Avicii Hell for a long time. But in the end he didn't step in. Wu Dao's heart skipped a beat. Even the Emperor of another era didn't dare to step into the Avicii Hell. It showed how terrifying this prison was. But what does this have to do with Emperor Bo Sun? Wu Dao's body asked. Sky Wolf was lost in his memories. After a long time he said slowly, My old master cut off the 7 emotions and 6 desires, combining Buddha and demon in one body. He was only half a step away from becoming an emperor. In this world, no one in the heaven realm is a match for the old master. After the old master unified the demon region, he wanted to conquer the Pure Lands and the Nine Clouds Immortal region. But the imperial emperors of the Pure Lands and the Nine Clouds Immortal region felt threatened, said Lin Feng. Therefore, the imperial emperors from the Nine Firmaments Immortal realm and the Pure Lands joined forces with the imperial emperors from other realms. More than 20 imperial emperors joined forces to kill the old master. The battle took place on the Taiwei Mountain in the Pure Land of Bliss. Wu Dao's true body asked, "Does Monarch Bo Sun have any helpers?" Tianlang said, "Everything happened so suddenly that the old master only had one good friend with him, an imperial emperor from the sword world." Wu Dao's main body was silent. This was equivalent to Monarch Bo Sun and Monarch Sword Realm fighting 1 against 10. Monarch of the Sword Realm? Suddenly, a thought flashed in the mind of Wu Dao's main body, and he seemed to be lost in thought. The old master has the body of both Buddhism and demon. His cultivation in both Buddhism and demon Tao far surpassed the other imperial emperors. He also has powerful imperial weapons such as the Kata saber and the Mask of Mara. He is almost immortal, Tianlang said. The immortal emperors from the Nine Clouds Immortal region and the monks from the Pure Lands knew that even if they joined forces, they would not be able to kill the old master. But if the old master did not die and recovered from his injuries, it would be their doomsday. Hearing this, Wu Dao's main body was moved. He blurted out. So they knew that they could not kill Monarch Bo Sun, so they joined forces and sent him to the Avicii Hell. That's right. Tianlang nodded and said, "The truth was just as those immortal emperors expected. Even though they had the advantage in numbers, they could not kill the old master. They only managed to injure him severely. On the other hand, they suffered heavy losses and lost more than half of their people. After that battle, more than half of the immortal realms in the Nine Firmaments changed masters." The heavenly wolf's tone was calm, but the martial Dao body could still feel the bitterness of that battle from the past. Immortal emperors were already at the peak of the upper world, but they could still fall. The old master was severely injured and could not resist their attacks. In the end, he was sent to the Avicii Hell. I was also severely injured because of that. There was no way to heal in the Avicii Hell. There were countless evil spirits and phantoms that constantly tore and devoured the old master's flesh and blood. The evil spirits and phantoms in the Avicii Hell were all incredible experts in the past. Tianlang's expression turned gloomy. He said, "The old master was severely injured and could not resist them. In the end, he died and passed away in the Avicii Hell. None of the living beings who entered the Avicii Hell were able to leave." Heavenly Wolf paused for a moment before continuing. His eyes were filled with deep fear, as if he was recalling that terrifying experience, and his heart still palpitated with fear. "That's not necessarily true," Wu Dao's main body suddenly said. "At least you escaped from the Avicii Hell." "I'm also confused about that," Tianlang said. "Back then, something happened in the Avicii Hell, and it shook continuously as though it could collapse at any moment. Thereafter, I took the opportunity to escape. For some reason, the hell-suppressing cauldron fell into Tianhuang mainland of the lower world at the same time." Wu Dao's main body pondered for a moment and suddenly asked, "The Emperor Lord of the Sword World knew the 3 great sword arts, right?" "That's right." Tianlang nodded. Wu Dao's main body closed his eyes and pondered for a long time. Gradually, he sorted out everything and said, "In other words, the battle that killed Emperor Bo Sun probably happened in the primordial era of Tianhuang mainland. It was also because of that battle that the 3 great sword arts were sent to Tianhuang mainland. Thereafter, tens of thousands of years ago, a huge change happened in the Avicii Hell, causing you and the hell-suppressing cauldron to fall into the lower world at the same time." At that point, Wu Dao's main body paused for a moment before saying, "There's something else that I'm not sure about. When did the hell-suppressing cauldron shatter? Was it the Avicii era, the longevity era, or was it during that change tens of thousands of years ago? That can't be right?" Tianlang was shocked. "The hell-suppressing cauldron is an emperor weapon. Who in the current world can shatter it?" Wu Dao's main body remained silent. Initially, he thought that the search for the Fiend Buddhist Grip Sutra was only related to Emperor Bo-sun. Who would have thought that it would actually involve the seamless heavenly emperor, as well as the incomparable war of the past? Searching for the fiend Buddhist grip sutra might be even more difficult than he had imagined. Get ready. We'll set off at any time, Wu Dao's main body said with a firm tone. We're still going. Tianlang grinned with a look of resistance. The Avicii Hell is a forbidden ground of the upper world, and there's no return for it. Don't lose your life if you can't save Yin Beichen. There's no guarantee that we won't be able to return, Wu Dao's main body said. Without the suppression of the hell-suppressing cauldron, there should be opportunities and openings in the Avicii Hell. Otherwise, you wouldn't have been able to escape alive back then. Even though that was the case, Wu Dao's main body was not confident either. That was merely his conjecture. He did not know what dangers he would encounter in this trip to the Pure Lands. Everything was unknown. The only thing Wu Dao's main body was certain of was that no matter how great the dangers ahead were, he had to do his best to extend Yin Beichen's life. Chapter 2291. Seeing that Su Zimo had made up his mind, Skywolf rolled his eyes and laughed dryly. Master, I'll prepare the map of the Pure Land of Bliss for you. You can set off at any time with Brother Yin Beichen. Pausing for a moment, Skywolf patted his chest and said heroically, Leave the Heaven Baron sect to me. Master, don't worry. I won't let anything happen to the Heaven Baron sect. Master is blessed by the heavens. This trip will definitely be more daunting than dangerous. Every day, I will lead the people of the Heaven Baron sect to pray for Master's triumphant return. Wu Dao's real body glanced sideways. There was no expression on his cold silver mask. Skywolf felt uncomfortable being stared at by Wu Dao's real body, and his hair stood on end. His thoughts seemed to have nowhere to hide under the gaze of Wu Dao's real body. Wu Dao's real body said calmly, If I go to the Pure Land of Bliss, I'll definitely take you with me. Why? Skywolf wailed. I don't want to go. That place was simply his nightmare. If you want to die, don't drag me down with you. Skywolf cursed inwardly. Moreover, if Wu Dao's real body died there, he would completely regain his freedom. He couldn't be happier. Wu Dao's real body said, Even if I have the map and can find the ceaseless pain hell, I don't know the situation inside. Only you have stayed there for a period of time, and only you can find the body of Emperor Bo-sun. It's too big, I can't find it either. Skywolf hurriedly waved his hand and shook his head. You can't hide, Wu Dao's real body said. You'd better pray that we can all come back alive. If we all leave, what about the Heaven Baron sect? Skywolf asked again. Wu Dao's real body looked at the 7 Sky Immortal experts standing not far behind Skywolf, and said indifferently, Over the years, haven't you recruited a few loyal subordinates? You can leave it to them for the time being. Wu Dao's words were spoken casually, but Tianlang's heart trembled. Over the past 1,000 years, he had used a secret technique from the demon domain to subdue these 7 Tier 8 and Tier 9 heavenly immortals with the greatest potential and combat strength. He named them the 7 Emotions Demonic Generals and took control of the Heaven Baron sect. They corresponded to the 7 emotions of joy, anger, sorrow, fear, love, hatred, and lust. If Wu Dao's true body couldn't break through, and he stepped into true first realm first, and became a true devil, he would be able to break free from the seal that Wu Dao's true body had planted on his Yuan Shun. The 7 Emotions Demonic Generals had the highest chance of entering the True One realm and becoming a true demon. At that time, with the help of the 7 Emotions Demon General, he would be able to completely control the Heaven Wasteland sect and completely break free from the control of Wu Dao's original body. On that day, he would truly become the Demon King of 7 Emotions. Tianlang only had these thoughts in his mind and did not dare to think too much about it. He did not mention it to anyone else for fear of alerting Wu Dao's original body. Now that Wu Dao's original body suddenly mentioned this, Tianlang could not help but feel a little guilty. Seeing that he could not avoid it, Tianlang could only accept his fate. He coughed softly and turned to look at the 7 Emotions Demon General behind him. I'll leave the Heaven Baron sect to you guys for the time being. During this period, don't provoke other sects and forces and develop in a low-profile manner. Also, don't spread the news of me and Patriarch leaving. Only the 7 of you know. Yes. The 7 Emotions Demon General agreed at the same time. Tianlang waved his hand, and the 7 Emotions Demon General understood, and took his leave. Big Brother Yin, let's go. Wu Dao's original body said, then looked at Tianlang, and gestured for the latter to transform into his original body, and carry Yin Beichen on his back. Tianlang said with a troubled expression, we're still in the territory of the Heaven Baron sect. It'll be embarrassing for the cultivators of the Heaven Baron sect to see me carrying him out. Wu Dao's original body did not say anything, and looked at Tianlang with deep eyes through the cold Mo Luo mask, recalling the thousands of years of torture, and the methods of Wu Dao's original body. Tianlang shuddered in fear, and hurriedly transformed into the form of a moon-devouring heavenly wolf. I have no choice but to lower my head when I'm under someone else's roof. Tianlang muttered internally. We'll talk about it after I enter the true self realm and break free from the seal. Let's wait and see. Humph. Zimo, don't go. Yin Beichen's expression was dim, and he could no longer straighten his body. He could only sprawl on Tianlang's back and say weakly, Big Brother Yin, there's no need to say anything between us. Wu Dao's original body shook his head gently, and took a step forward to remove the white ferret from Yin Beichen's body. When the white ferret saw that it was about to leave with Yin Beichen, it struggled and squeaked continuously. It's a dangerous trip, and the future is uncertain. It's better if you don't follow. Wu Dao's original body said, I'm sure Big Brother Yin doesn't want you to take the risk either. Yin Beichen no longer had the strength to speak and merely nodded. The white ferret no longer struggled, and merely looked at Yin Beichen in a daze with a deep reluctance in its eyes. Wu Dao's original body took a deep breath, and placed the white ferret aside. Patting Tianlang's body, he said in a low voice, let's go to the teleportation formation. Heaven Baron sect developed continuously, and expanded its territory. In an ancient ruin, they discovered a large teleportation formation. However, it was corroded by time and was long dilapidated. Tianlang used its memories to repair the teleportation formation. It would probably take hundreds of years to reach the Pure Land of Bliss, even with the help of spirit boats and immortal ships. It was a long journey, and no one knew what would happen along the way. Yin Beichen wouldn't be able to hold on for that long. Only by using a large teleportation formation could they reach the Pure Land of Bliss immediately. Wu Dao's original body didn't bring anyone else to the Pure Land of Bliss. Only Yin Beichen and Tianlang were going. That place was the Avicii Hell. It was useless no matter how many people they brought. Before long, the 2 people and the wolf arrived at the teleportation formation. In order to successfully teleport, there had to be a large teleportation formation on both sides at the same time. Otherwise, the teleportation would fail. Tianlang took out a map and carefully compared it. He found a place relatively close to the Pure Land of Bliss. There was also a teleportation formation there. After setting the destination, Wu Dao's original body activated the teleportation formation. The 2 people and the wolf disappeared from the demon domain. After an unknown period of time, the 2 people and the wolf finally recovered from the dizziness and regained their senses. With a burst of bright light, the 2 people and the wolf stepped on solid ground and arrived at an unfamiliar place. Wu Dao's original body looked around and didn't find any traces of a teleportation formation. Tianlang took out a map and compared it. There's probably something wrong with this teleportation formation, causing our teleportation to deviate a little. But it's closer to the Pure Land of Bliss. Keep walking in this direction. In less than a day, we should be able to reach the Pure Land of Bliss and see the Grand Taiwei Mountain. Tianlang pointed in a direction and said, Grand Taiwei Mountain? Wu Dao's original body frowned. Tianlang had said before that the Avicii Hell was on the Grand Taiwei Mountain. What was this Grand Taiwei Mountain? Although Wu Dao's original body had ascended for many years, his understanding of the heaven realm was far inferior to Tianlang's. Tianlang said, the Pure Land of Bliss is also known as the Pure Land of Bliss. With Mount Meru as the center, there are 8 mountains surrounding it. Between the mountains, there's a sea separating them. That's why it's called the 9 Mountains and 8 Seas. The Grand Taiwei Mountain is also one of the 9 mountains. Taiwei is Sanskrit. When translated into human language, it's Vajra. That's why the Grand Taiwei Mountain is also known as the Vajra Mountain and Vajra Wheel Mountain. Bookhouse Reading Website. Chapter 2292. Vajra Wheel Mountain. When the martial Tao body heard this name, a trace of divine light flashed across his eyes. If that was the case, the Grand Taiwei Mountain could also be called the Grand Vajra Wheel Mountain. In Tianhuang mainland, there was a move in the Wisdom King seal called the Grand Vajra Wheel seal. It was not a coincidence that the two names were exactly the same. The origin of the Grand Vajra Wheel seal should be from the Pure Land's Grand Vajra Wheel Mountain. On Tianlang's back, Yan Beichen's eyes were tightly shut and his breathing was weak. He did not have much life force in his body to begin with, and was extremely weak. After the torment of the teleportation formation, he could not take it anymore and fainted. Wu Dao's main body checked with his consciousness, and heaved a sigh of relief when he saw that Yan Beichen's life was not in danger for the time being. Tianlang carried the unconscious Yan Beichen and followed behind Wu Dao's main body. Along the way, he told Wu Dao's main body about the Pure Land. About 2 hours later, a thick pitch-black line appeared in the horizon ahead, stretching left and right endlessly. That's the Grand Taiwei Mountain. Tianlang looked at the black line in the horizon and said, "To be precise, the Grand Taiwei Mountain does not look like a mountain peak. It's more like a mountain range that spans billions of miles, circling around the Pure Land like a wheel." In other words, every living being that wants to enter the Pure Land has to cross this Grand Taiwei Mountain. The Pure Land was on the same level as the 9 Firmament Immortal region and the Demon region. How long must this mountain range be to be able to surround the entire Pure Land? Before long, Wu Dao's main body arrived at the foot of the Grand Taiwei Mountain. Looking from afar, one could not comprehend the majesty of this mountain range. Standing at the foot of the mountain, one could feel how insignificant one was. This mountain range was pitch black and looked extremely sturdy. It stretched endlessly and was even more majestic than the coiling Dragon Mountain range in Divine Cloud's continent, exuding a sacred aura of the Buddhist sects. This mountain range was like a sturdy wall protecting the Pure Land, blocking countless evil and filth. All living beings had to cross this wall to reach the Pure Land of Buddhism. Wu Dao's main body suddenly raised his hand and punched the Grand Taiwei Mountain before him. Bang! This punch contained 70% of Wu Dao's true body's strength, but the Grand Taiwei Mountain didn't even budge. On the surface of the mountain, there was not even a trace of loose rock. On the other hand, Wu Dao's main body felt a slight pain in his palm. Hee. Tianlang laughed and said, "The Grand Taiwei Mountain is impenetrable, indestructible, 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 and impervious to the passage of time. This Grand Taiwei Mountain is invincible Vajra." Back then, the old master fought against more than 20 imperial emperors from the 9 Clouds Immortal region and the Pure Land of Bliss, but he couldn't do anything to this mountain. Wu Dao's main body stopped trying and prepared to climb the mountain. According to the directions on the map, they had to cross the Grand Taiwei Mountain in front of them and cross a strait before they could see the Taiwei Mountain. Avicii Hell was in Taiwei Mountain. I thought of something. At this moment, Sky Wolf suddenly said, "Actually, if you want to save Yan Beichen, you don't have to go to the Avicii Hell. Furthermore, even if you obtain the complete Fiend Buddhist Wielder Sutra, you might not be able to save his life. In the Heaven Realm, there are extremely few immortal herbs that can heal essence spirit injuries. There's one in the Pure Land of Bliss called the Ashoka Tree." Ashoka Tree. Wu Dao's main body asked in return, "One of the 3 sacred trees of the Buddhist monasteries?" Wu Dao's main body was all too familiar with the Ashoka tree. Back then, Daiyu took a Ashoka flower from the bottom of the Dragon Burial Valley and planted it in his dantian to replace his spirit root. Later on, it even helped him repair his Jin Dan and tide through a calamity. The legends of the 3 sacred trees were recorded in the Buddhist sutras of Tianhuang mainland. Legend has it that the Buddha was born under the Ashoka tree, attained the Tao under the Bodhi tree, and was reborn under the Sara tree. That was also the reason why the Ashoka flower contained a power of life that allowed Su Zimo's shattered Jin Dan to be revived. At that thought, Wu Dao's main body came to a realization. In other words, the power of life on the Ashoka tree can heal Brother Yan's essence spirit. Heavenly Wolf said. To be precise, only the Ashoka fruit can do it. The Ashoka fruit is the crystallization of the life force of the Ashoka tree, and is equivalent to a fruit of life. As for the other Ashoka flowers, they don't have enough life force. Therefore, it's naturally easy for them to heal some physical injuries. Where's the Ashoka tree? Wu Dao's main body asked again. As one of the 3 sacred trees of the Buddhist monasteries, the Ashoka tree was definitely guarded by countless eminent monks, and was filled with obstacles. However, it was still stronger than a forbidden ground that even great emperors could not enter. It would naturally be for the best, if he did not have to enter the Avicii hell. The Ashoka tree was originally on the Taiwei mountain. Heavenly Wolf paused for a moment with a strange expression. Originally, Wu Dao's main body could tell that Heavenly Wolf was implying something and asked with a frown, "What do you mean?" Heavenly Wolf replied, "The Ashoka tree was originally on the Taiwei mountain, and the entrance to the Avicii hell was not far away. However, the battle between the Old Master and more than 20 imperial lords was also on the Taiwei mountain, and the Ashoka tree was implicated, and was destroyed a long time ago." "The Ashoka tree is already dead?" Wu Dao's main body asked. "Yes," Heavenly Wolf nodded. "A spirit tree like the Ashoka tree was formed from the providence of an entire world, and was similar to the creation tree of the heavenly realm. At the very least, there was no other tree in the Pure Lands. Has the Ashoka tree not revived after so many years?" Wu Dao's main body asked again. Heavenly Wolf shook its head. "In the battle back then, the Ashoka tree was destroyed, and its life force was severed. There's definitely no way it can be revived." After pausing for a moment, Heavenly Wolf continued, "Although the Ashoka tree is dead, if we can find the scattered Ashoka fruits, we can still heal Yen Beichen's injuries to his essence spirit." "Yes." Wu Dao's main body remained silent. No matter what, he had to head to the Taiwei mountain to take a look first. The Ashoka tree used to grow there as well. There might be traces of the Ashoka fruit on the Taiwei mountain. "I see." Wu Dao's main body was halfway up the mountain when he suddenly muttered to himself. "What?" Heavenly Wolf asked instinctively. Wu Dao's main body said, "Back then, the battle between Emperor Lord Bo Sun and more than 20 imperial lords affected a huge area. There's a high chance that a passageway to the lower world was accidentally opened up. That's the reason why 2 great sword arts were lost in Tianhuang mainland. Because the Ashoka tree was destroyed, the Ashoka flower at the bottom of the Dragon Burial Valley should have floated down from the Taiwei mountain during the battle to kill Bo Sun. Creation Qinglian, the only sacred item in the world, should have been in the upper world. However, it appeared in Tianhuang mainland. That was strange. According to Heavenly Wolf, imperial lords of the Buddhist monasteries participated in the battle to kill Bo Sun and suffered heavy casualties. There was a high chance that the creation Qinglian belonged to an imperial lord of the Buddhist monasteries who died in that battle. Eventually, the creation Qinglian fell on Tianhuang mainland together with the 2 great sword arts and the Ashoka flower. Coincidentally, the sacred items of Tianhuang mainland changed the fates of many people, such as the Buddha Emperor and Sword Emperor of the ancient era. In this generation, they contributed to the rise of Su Zimo. Chapter 2293. The Grand Taiwei Mountain was very high. Wu Dao's original body and Sky Wolf climbed without rest for more than half a day. When the 2 people and 1 wolf reached the top of the mountain, it was already dusk. Not far away, there was a row of mottled stone walls. The stone walls stretched along the Grand Taiwei Mountain, endless as far as the eye could see. Through the stone walls, one could see the corners of some ancient buildings, giving off a sense of tranquility, like a temple building. "Where is the Grand Taiwei Mountain?" Wu Dao's original body asked. Normally, after crossing this Grand Taiwei Mountain and a strait, we'll reach the Grand Taiwei Mountain. Skywolf said. In other words, if they want to continue, they have to cross this row of stone walls. Wu Dao's original body and Skywolf took a few steps forward and saw a gate. On the gate hung a plaque with 3 words, Shura Temple. Wu Dao's original body frowned slightly. Yen Beichen's Taoist name is Shura. He didn't expect there to be a Shura temple here. Is it just a coincidence, or is there something else? Or is it fate that Yen Beichen came here? How much do you know about Shura Temple? Wu Dao's original body asked. I don't know. Skywolf shook its head. When I followed the old master here to fight the 9 firmament immortal realms emperor of the pure land of bliss, this temple didn't exist. I don't know when it was built. This Shura temple under the cover of dusk gave off a sense of eeriness. He knew nothing about Shura temple and didn't know what rank this temple was. If it was a Xian temple, the situation would be better. According to the ranking of the Heaven Realm sects, the highest cultivation level in a Xian temple is a 9th stage immortal. It's no threat to Wu Dao's original body, but if it was an Earth temple, it would be difficult. Being able to reach Earth temple means that there's a true self-realm cultivator in the temple. True self-realm is divided into 4 levels: Unity, Celestial, Void and Void. With the current combat strength of Wu Dao's original body, he could only defeat a true immortal in the consolidation stage. If he were to encounter a heavenly being, Kongming, Dongxiu, or Wu Dao's true body, he would have no choice but to avoid them. Wu Dao's original body pondered for a while. He did not rush in recklessly. Instead, he went forward and gently knocked on the door of the temple. Dong dong dong. After knocking a few times, Wu Dao waited patiently at the entrance of the temple. If he wanted to continue, he could only borrow the Shura temple. Not long after, the sound of hurried footsteps could be heard from inside, arriving at the door. Who's outside? An inquiring voice came from inside. Wu Dao said in a deep voice, I am Araki Takeshi. I would like to borrow your temple to go to the pure land of bliss. I hope you can accommodate me. Creak. The door of the temple opened slowly. 2 bald monks wearing monk robes flashed out. Their cultivation realm was not high, only at the mystic immortal realm. The 2 monks sized up Wu Dao's original body and stared at the Mara mask for a long time. But they could not see anything special about it. Not only could the Mara mask hide one's face, it could also block the detection of divine senses. In addition, Wu Dao's original body was cultivating. Not to mention these 2 monks. Even a true immortal would not be able to see the depths of his original body. The 2 monks' gazes fell on the heavenly wolf behind Wu Dao's original body. The heavenly wolf's body was huge, and its eyes were ferocious. Its entire body was emitting a murderous aura. The 2 monks' expressions changed slightly. When the 2 monks looked at Yen Beichen on the heavenly wolf's back, they frowned at the same time. Cultivator of the demon region, the 2 monks shouted in a low voice. Although Yen Beichen had fainted, he cultivated the Fiendish Sutra. The fiendish qi in his body was extremely dense, maintaining the remaining vitality in his body. Cultivators of the demon region are not allowed to enter the blessed land of the Buddhist sects. Extreme disgust appeared in the eyes of the 2 monks as they hollered, Patron, please return. With that said, the 2 monks returned to the monastery. With a boom, the doors of the monastery closed. Wu Dao's original body stood in front of the closed monastery silently. There were no emotions beneath the cold silver mask. The conflict between Buddhism and fiends is even more intense than immortals and fiends. It's almost impossible for them to coexist. The heavenly wolf said, in the oldest records, the ancient demon Bo Sun and the ancient Buddha were born at the same time. Legend has it that when the Buddha was comprehending the Tao under the Bodhi tree, the ancient demon Bo Sun led 8 billion fiends over, and a great war between Buddhism and fiends broke out. The feud between Buddhism and fiends has a long history, and is deeply ingrained in the memories. Wu Dao's original body had heard of that legend as well. Legend has it that the ancient demon Bo Sun was the oldest, strongest, and most terrifying fiend. The Bo Sun of this generation was truly powerful as well. To think that he could comprehend both the Taoists of Buddhism and fiends to the extreme, reaching the realm of coexistence. With the ancient demon Bo-sun and the Bo-sun, the feud between Buddhism and fiends deepened. All the Buddhist disciples would turn pale at the mention of fiends. The Heavenly Wolf said. Among the Buddhist cultivators, they view the fiend region as filthy land, the opposite of the pure land of bliss. If they knew that we came from the fiend region, they would definitely not let us set foot in the pure land of bliss, for fear that our filthy aura would pollute the pure land. Wu Dao's original body did not speak the entire time. After a while, he glanced sideways at the unconscious Yen Beichen. Yen Beichen's condition was getting worse, and he did not know how much longer he could last. There was not much time left for him. Wu Dao's original body did not want to wait here any longer. He reached out and pressed on the door of Shura Monastery, shaking it with force. Boom! With a loud bang, the door of the monastery was shattered into pieces by the palm of Wu Dao's original body. Dust billowed and wood shavings flew everywhere. Just now, the two monks had not left yet. When they turned around and saw this scene, their faces were filled with shock. The two of them did not expect that this purple-robed man with a silver mask would dare to barge into the Shura Monastery. Ow ow! The Heavenly Wolf carried Yen Beichen through the billowing dust and jumped into the Shura Monastery with a murderous aura. It kept howling and was extremely excited. Are you going to start a massacre? The Heavenly Wolf could not wait any longer. Its eyes were filled with murderous intent. Its scarlet tongue licked its lips as it stared at the two monks not far away. With a low growl, it pounced on them. The two monks were only Xian immortals. The Heavenly Wolf had already cultivated to the first level of Heavenly Origin stage. Under the Heavenly Wolf's ferocious aura, the two monks were so scared that their legs turned to jelly. They could not even move, let alone resist. The bitter smell of blood assaulted their senses. The two monks were about to suffocate, and their faces were filled with despair. The Heavenly Wolf's bloody mouth was about to swallow the two monks. Suddenly, the Heavenly Wolf's body stopped in mid-air motionless. Ow! Following that, the Heavenly Wolf screamed and almost bit off its own tongue. Unknowingly, Wu Dao had appeared behind the Heavenly Wolf. He stretched out his hand and grabbed the Heavenly Wolf's fluffy tail, pulling it back. The Heavenly Wolf pounced fiercely. It was caught off guard when Wu Dao suddenly pulled it from behind. All it felt was a burning pain on its buttocks. It felt like its tail had been torn off. Ow! The Heavenly Wolf roared and turned to look at Wu Dao, glaring at him angrily. However, when it met Wu Dao's cold eyes, it immediately softened and its anger disappeared. It just blinked its eyes and whimpered, looking aggrieved. Behave yourself, Wu Dao said calmly. Protect Yen Beichen well. You don't have to do anything. Chapter 2294. Wu Dao's original body was here to save people, not to kill. The monks in this Shura temple were conflicted because of the feud between the Buddha and the devil. But in the end, Wu Dao's original body had no deep hatred for these monks. Su Zimo was born a scholar. Although he had a fierce tiger in his heart, he was not a bloodthirsty person in his bones. Sky Wolf was different. He was originally the Seven Emotions Demon King. He had followed Emperor Bo-sun and killed countless people in the land of the devil. Whether it was in his previous life or now, Sky Wolf could be regarded as a pure devil. If Sky Wolf were to attack, many living beings in this Shura temple would die. The two Xian immortal monks were scared out of their wits. They could only watch Wu Dao's original body and the giant Sky Wolf pass over their heads. They did not dare to stop them. Who dares to trespass in the Shura temple? Stop! The sound of the temple's door breaking quickly spread into the temple. Figures appeared in front of them, emitting powerful auras, and rushed towards them. Wu Dao's original body scanned them with his divine sense. These monks were obviously much more powerful, but the highest level was only a level 9 Earth Immortal. You can't stop me. Disperse. Wu Dao's original body said indifferently. He waved his sleeves gently, and a powerful force burst out and enveloped them. The dozens of monks at the front fell from the sky one after another, before they could even get close to him. These monks landed on the ground without any injuries, but each of them seemed to be suppressed by millions of pounds of invisible force. They could not jump up at all. They could only watch the two people, and the wolf continued to move forward. Amitabha. Wu Dao's original body had not gone far when a sacred Sanskrit sound echoed between heaven and earth. It lingered in the air and went straight to people's hearts. This Buddhist chant was a secret method that targeted the Dao heart. It wanted to shake the Dao heart of Wu Dao's original body. Yen Baichen had fainted. This Buddhist chant had no effect on him. On the other hand, Tian Lang was once the demon king of 7 emotions. His Dao heart was firm and unshakable. Wu Dao's original body was able to condense the 10th step of the Dao heart staircase. This kind of Dao heart impact was nothing to him. In the monastery ahead, figures soared into the sky one after another. There were about a few hundred monks, and all of them were heavenly immortals. The leader held a Buddhist staff and had a benevolent look on his face. His eyes were filled with compassion. Wu Dao's original body stood above the Shura temple and spread out his divine sense, which continued to spread and enveloped the entire Shura temple. Everything in the temple was reflected in his heart. In this Shura temple, the ones with the highest cultivation base were these few eminent monks. They were all 9th stage celestial immortals. The old monk in the middle was holding a Buddhist staff. Judging from his attire and bearing, he should be the abbot of Shura temple. In other words, this Shura temple should only be a Xian sect. Of course, in the depths of the temple ahead, there was a powerful aura of life faintly emanating from it. However, this life force was faintly discernible, as if it was in a deep slumber. Strange. In the heart of Wu Dao's original body, there was a trace of confusion. The Grand Taiwei Mountain was the border of the Pure Land of Bliss. It was the closest to the Grand Taiwei Mountain and had a unique region. To build such a temple here, but it was only a Xian sect. There was not even a true immortal powerhouse in the temple. This in itself was a bit strange. Benefactor, in front of us is the pure land of Buddhism. Please return the way you came. The abbot of Shura temple said in a deep voice, if Benefactor is willing to put down the butcher's knife, Shura temple is willing to lead Benefactor to wash away the filth, cut off the filth, and convert to Buddhism. The abbot of Shura temple lowered his eyes, but there was a kind of compassion in his eyes. His voice also contained a kind of sacred power, which was deafening. The Bodhisattva lowered his eyebrows. This was the supreme secret of Buddhism. There was a saying in Buddhism that the Vajra's angry eyes were no match for the Bodhisattva's lowered eyebrows. In the past, when the Buddha said to put down the butcher's knife and become a Buddha, he could convert many peerless demons. This showed the shocking power of this secret technique. However, Wu Dao's original body's Dao heart was unshakable. Even if the Buddha was reincarnated, it was unknown whether he could be converted, let alone the abbot of Shura temple in front of him. Wu Dao's original body stretched out his white hands, as clear as jade, and asked in return, I don't have a knife in my hands. How can I put down the butcher's knife? Wu Dao's original body broke into Shura temple and did not kill a single person. His hands were not stained with the slightest bit of blood. That's not right. The abbot of Shura temple looked calm and smiled. The so-called butcher's knife does not refer to the knife in the hand. It refers to evil intentions, evil words, evil deeds, and all delusions, confusion, separation, and persistence. These are the knives in the heart of Benefactor. Putting down the butcher's knife and becoming a Buddha is to let Benefactor put down delusions, separation, and persistence. Only by putting down the knives in the heart can you convert to Buddhism. Abbot, have you put down the parting? Wu Dao's original body asked lightly. Without waiting for the abbot of Shura temple to answer, Wu Dao's original body continued to ask, if the abbot has put down the parting thought, how can there be Buddha and devil? Why did you stop me from entering the pure land? The abbot of Shura temple was still looking down, but the white eyebrows above his eyes twitched slightly, showing the fluctuations in his heart. Although the two sides did not make a move, this confrontation of words was also a clash of swords. This was a Buddhist discussion of the Tao. When the abbot of Shura temple saw that Wu Dao's original body could react so quickly and say such words, he knew that the other party's understanding of Buddhism was not inferior to his own. I came here this time with no malice, only to save people. Wu Dao's original body continued. The Buddhist scriptures say that saving a life is better than building a 7-storied pagoda. Abbot, because of the parting thought, you stopped me from entering the Pure Land. The knife in the abbot's heart is the invisible killing. If the abbot insists on stopping me, I think the abbot's obsession in the abbot's heart is not weaker than mine. The abbot of Shura Temple took a deep breath and tried to calm the fluctuations in his heart, constantly reciting the scriptures to calm his mind. Under the sharp words of Wu Dao's original body, his Dao heart had been shaken. Wu Dao's original body said, "In addition, I am puzzled in my heart. A peerless devil who has killed countless people can become a Buddha the moment he puts down the butcher's knife. What about the innocent souls who died in his hands? Some people have done countless good deeds, but as long as they make a mistake, they will immediately be scolded by thousands of people, not to mention converting to Buddhism. What is this? Why are you so tolerant to the devil, but so harsh to the common people of the world?" The sharpness of this sentence was like a sharp sword, directly piercing the abbot of Shura Temple's Dao heart. These words simply shook the fundamental beliefs of many Buddhist monks. The abbot of Shura Temple's expression changed drastically. His body swayed, and he could barely stand in midair. The eyes that looked at Wu Dao's original body were filled with fear. The silver mask of Wu Dao's original body was cold and did not reveal any expression. However, at this moment, the abbot of Shura Temple seemed to see a solemn, holy and benevolent Buddha's face on this silver mask. Behind the head of Wu Dao's original body, there seemed to be a halo blooming, enveloped by Buddhist light. However, the eyes of Wu Dao's original body were as deep as the abyss, as if they contained powerful magic. A Buddha from the fiend realm. The abbot of Shura Temple's voice trembled. Buddha and devil in one body. Buddha and devil coexist. In the memories of Shura Temple, the last person from the fiend realm who had such understanding of Buddhism was the legendary Emperor Bo-sun. He's back, he's back. The abbot of Shura Temple roared as if he had gone crazy. Bo-sun is back. Chapter 2295. Abbot, the monks exclaimed. The abbot of Shura Temple was in a delirious state. The compassion in his eyes had disappeared, leaving only endless fear. Naturally, the monks had heard of Bo-sun mentioned by the abbot of Shura Temple. However, Emperor Bo-sun had fallen in Avicii for many years. How could he come back to life? Moreover, although the purple-robed man wore a silver mask and was somewhat mysterious, he was far from an expert like Emperor Bo-sun. The monks of Shura Temple could not see the cultivation level of Wu Dao's original body, but they could detect that Sirius was only a stage 1 heaven immortal. There was nothing to be afraid of. The spiritual pet beside him was only a stage 1 heaven immortal. Based on this, the purple-robed man's cultivation level could not be too high. At least, it could not be higher than heaven origin. How dare you, demon? How dare you mislead us in the pure land of Buddhism? Another stage 9 heaven immortal monk made a prompt decision and said in a deep voice, "Monks of Shura Temple, listen up. Let's work together to suppress this demon." The monks responded. Hundreds of heaven immortal monks took out their heaven-grade magic treasures and unleashed a series of mystic arts that covered the sky and the sun. Call the wind and summon the rain. Magic bean soldiers. 3 heads and 6 arms. Buddhas, dragons and elephants. One after another, the mystic arts were unleashed. The energy waves generated swept in all directions, causing the sky to change color and sand to fly everywhere. The chanting of the Buddhas, the roars of dragons, and the roars of tigers were endless. It was sacred and vast, as if it was going to purify all the evil in the world. Sirius's demonic art was profound. It was the most resistant to such Buddhist mystic arts and sacred Sanskrit chants. Although it was the demon king of 7 emotions in its previous life, its current cultivation level was only a stage 1 heaven immortal. The sacred power unleashed by these Buddhist mystic arts made it feel extremely uncomfortable. Sirius growled again and again, feeling uneasy. Wu Dao's original body's eyes were deep. There was no expression on the cold silver mask. He stood in midair without moving. Suddenly, 9 purple halos bloomed behind him. Above each halo were countless mysterious runes that condensed Wu Dao's will. The strength of Wu Dao's main body continued to rise, and his aura skyrocketed. It was as if time had stopped. All the magical treasures and abilities remained motionless in midair. After a short pause, the 9 fate wheels bloomed. Countless mysterious runes burst out. Purple chi filled the air. Annihilation. Many magic treasures, regardless of their grade, were all blown away by the 9 fate wheels of Wu Dao's original body. Many Dharma skills of the Buddhism sect were also suppressed by the power of the 9 fate wheels. They collapsed on the spot and turned into chi of heaven and earth. The monks of Shura Temple were aghast. So many heavenly immortal experts had attacked at the same time, but they were all defeated by this purple-robed cultivator with a single move. The monks of Shura Temple didn't even know what the 9 purple halos, surrounded by mysterious runes, were. Could this person be a true devil? The hearts of the 9th stage heavenly immortal monks trembled. Right at this moment, Wu Dao's main body suddenly spoke and let out a roar. Sound of all spirits. In this roar, there seemed to be the roar of a dragon, the cry of a phoenix, the cry of a crane, the neighing of a horse, the howl of a wolf, the cry of an ape, the roar of a tiger, the bark of a dog, the cries of billions of living beings, and the cries of all living beings in the world intertwined at this moment, condensing into an earth-shattering roar that resounded through the 9 heavens. After Wu Dao's main body created this sound domain mystic technique, he had only used it once. This sound domain mystic technique was extremely powerful. It was condensed by his main body, by combining countless sound domain mystic techniques. It was even more terrifying than Qinglian's dragon roar mystic technique. This time, Wu Dao's main body did not use his full strength. He only released 60% of his strength. Even so, it was a devastating blow to the hundreds of Shura Temple monks in front of him. The chanting of the Buddhas, the roars of the dragon, and the roars of the tiger dissipated instantly. Poof! 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 Some low-level heaven immortals could not bear it at all. They vomited blood and could not control their bodies, falling from mid-air. Although the few stage 9 heaven immortals of Shura Temple managed to withstand it, they felt a stinging pain in their ears. Their minds were buzzing and blank, and they temporarily lost consciousness. The monks were utterly defeated. At the same time, in the depths of the Shura Temple in front of them, something seemed to have been awakened by the sound of all spirits, and it burst out with an extremely powerful fluctuation of life force. Boom! The ground of Shura Temple trembled. In the deepest part of Shura Temple, there was an inconspicuous grave. Some of the Shura Temple monks who had passed away were buried there. Next to the grave, there was a shabby thatched cottage. It was on the verge of collapse, as if it would fall apart with a gust of wind. This thatched cottage was short and dilapidated. It did not look much better than the graves next to it. The thatched cottage did not have a door. It was empty inside, and it was pitch black. At this moment, an old monk slowly walked out from the door of the thatched cottage. He was wearing a pitch-black monk robe. He did not have a beard, but his 2 white eyebrows were so long that they almost reached his shoulders. The old monk was thin and slightly hunched, making him look short. His face was full of wrinkles, and his eyes were cloudy. He raised his head to look in the direction of the sound of all spirits, and then looked away. The old monk came to a grave, bent down slightly, and pulled out the weeds around the grave, and cleaned it slightly. There was a tombstone on the grave. Strangely, the tombstone was blank, and there were no words on it. The old monk suddenly made a strange move. He stretched out his withered hands, pressed on the top of the tombstone, and jumped lightly, slowly climbing up. Then, the old monk tried his best to turn over, and sat on the tombstone. With his back facing Shura Temple, he looked in the direction of the pure land of bliss, lost in thought. In the Shura Temple, Wu Dao's true body only released the 9 fate wheels, and the sound of all spirits. He did not use his full strength at all, but the monks of Shura Temple were already wailing, unable to resist. Demon, even if you enter the pure land of bliss, our Buddhist sect will send arhats to stop you. You won't be able to go far. A 9th-tier heaven immortal monk shouted loudly. Arhats were the true immortals of the 9 heavens immortal realm, and the true demons of the demon realm. They just had different names, but they were both true ones. Is that so? Wu Dao's true body said indifferently. If they come, Tell them to go to Avicii and find me. Avicii. Hearing these words, the monks of Shura Temple could not help but shudder. Of course, they did not think that Wu Dao's true body would really go to Avicii. After all, that was a forbidden area that even great emperors would not dare to enter. Since ancient times, countless powerhouses had been buried there. Demon, why did you barge into Shura Temple and enter the pure land of bliss? A monk of Shura Temple questioned loudly. Wu Dao's true body passed by the monks of Shura Temple. Suddenly, he stopped and thought for a while, then said, "If your temple has the fretless fruit, I can leave and not set foot in the pure land of bliss." The fretless fruit. A monk glared angrily and shouted, "Fiend, you're here for the sacred item of the Buddhist monasteries, the fretless fruit. We can't let him pass. Wake it up, release it, and kill this demon." Chapter 2296. The monks guarding the main hall of Shura Temple received the order and channeled their secret skills without hesitation, releasing streams of spirit light that entered the ground of the main hall. Dong! There was an earth-shattering sound. Beneath the main hall of Shura Temple, there seemed to be a terrifying life form that was rising and was about to break out of the ground. Wu Dao's true body advanced expressionlessly with Heavenly Wolf following closely behind. No matter what dangers we encounter, just remember to protect Yin Beichen and leave. Don't worry about me. Wu Dao's true body sent a voice transmission with his spirit consciousness. All right, Heavenly Wolf agreed without hesitation. As they spoke, Wu Dao's true body had already arrived in front of the main hall of Shura Temple. Rumble! The floor of the Ashura Temple's main hall suddenly cracked open. Dust flew into the air as two thick arms reached out from the crack. Splash! Immediately after, the two arms pressed against the ground, and a tall figure burst out of the ground. It was so tall that it pierced through the dome of the main hall of Shura Temple. This figure was like an iron tower, with rusty chains wrapped around its body. Its naked body exuded a savage and violent aura. The gigantic life form looked similar to a human, but was extremely ugly with two curved horns on its head that were incomparably sharp. Roar! The life form widened its eyes and let out a deafening roar in the direction of Wu Dao's true body, causing a rumbling air wave. The main hall of Shura Temple shook continuously in the midst of the roar and could collapse at any moment. When the life form roared, the blood chi in its body surged and huge green veins protruded on its neck like coiling pythons. It was extremely horrifying. It has a strong physique. Wu Dao's true body could sense the terrifying blood chi and powerful physique of the life form without exchanging blows with it. Wu Dao's true body scanned with his spirit consciousness, but could not tell the cultivation realm of the life form. What race is that? Wu Dao's true body asked with a frown. It's Shura. Skywolf stared at the tall figure not far away and said in a serious tone. A Shura clan is not human, not demon, not ghost, not god, but they are born with extraordinary strength and extremely powerful combat strength. The way they cultivate is different from the other races. No one can detect their cultivation base. However, if a Shura enters the realm of true self, there will be obvious changes. They will grow an extra head and 2 more arms. If you step into the Grotto Heaven realm and become King Ashura, you will have 3 heads and 6 arms. 3 heads and 6 arms. Wu Dao's main body muttered softly. Not bad. Tian Lang said. The 3 heads 6 arms peerless theurgy originally came from the Ashura tribe. If Ashura tribe enters the martial emperor realm, they will not have any more heads. However, they will grow an additional pair of arms and become the 8-armed Shura tribe. Wu Dao's true body did not know much about the Shura tribe and had never seen them in Tianhuang mainland either. In the 6 paths of reincarnation, there was a Dao of Shura called Shura. He did not know what it had to do with the Shura tribe. However, when Wu Dao's true body found out about the background of the life form before him, he understood why this monastery was called Shura Monastery. Tian Lang said, Master, you must not be careless. The Shura tribe has an extremely strong physique and bloodline, and their combat strength is extremely strong. They are definitely not weaker than dragons and Protoss. Kill that fiend. A few monks of Shura Monastery shouted at the Shura tribe, roaring repeatedly, The Shura tribe broke through the main hall of Shura Monastery and strode towards Wu Dao's true body. Behind Wu Dao's true body, 9 fate wheels were condensed. His gaze shone brightly as he charged towards the Shura tribe without retreating or dodging. He raised his hand and punched. Compared to the indomitable Shura tribe, Wu Dao's true body looked incomparably tiny. His counterattack was more like an egg striking a rock, or a mayfly trying to shake a tree. However, the power and will that burst forth from Wu Dao's true body was dense and majestic. It was like a mountain, a deep sea, an erupting volcano or a tsunami. It was impossible to describe the pressure of that punch without standing opposite Wu Dao's true body. The expression of the Shura tribe turned grim as well. Roar! With a low roar, he also raised his huge and hard fist. Like a hammer breaking through the air, he smashed it heavily against the fist of Wu Dao's true body. Bang! When the 2 fists collided, there was a muffled explosion in midair. Heaven and earth seemed to tremble as well. The aftershock of the 2 fists' collision almost condensed into a substance. Like ripples, it spread rapidly in all directions. Many buildings in Shura Monastery were implicated and collapsed one after another. Smoke and dust flew everywhere. The monks raised their heads and looked at the 2 figures in midair, their faces full of shock. They did not expect that this seemingly insignificant purple-robed man could actually withstand the fist of the Shura tribe in close combat. What kind of physical body and constitution did this man have? Before the monks of Shura Monastery could disperse this thought, they saw the Shura tribe in midair with a pained expression. He took 2 steps back and cried out in pain. However, the purple-robed man remained unmoved. His silver mask was as cold as ever. The Shura tribe was defeated in close combat? Everyone in Shura Monastery looked at this scene in disbelief. Heavenly Wolf laughed and said, "We're pretty lucky. This Shura tribe only has 2 arms, and his cultivation hasn't reached true self-realm yet." Ah! The Shura tribe roared continuously. He waved his arms and 2 more arms grew out from under his armpits. Heavenly Wolf's smile gradually froze on his face. The eyes of Wu Dao's true body narrowed. The 2 new arms of the Shura tribe were rather thin and weak. It was clear that they had not grown to their peak. In other words, although the Shura tribe was at true self-realm, his combat strength was not at the peak of true self-realm. At that thought, Wu Dao's true body did not wait for the Shura tribe to accumulate his strength. Suddenly, he took a step forward and punched towards the Shura tribe. At the same time, the blood chi in Wu Dao's true body surged with the sound of a tsunami. That punch was way too ferocious. The aura of the Shura tribe was completely suppressed by Wu Dao's true body. He glared with widened eyes and crossed his arms high in front of him. The muscles on his arms were knotted like molten iron and shone with a metallic luster, filled with explosive power. Boom! The fist of the Wu Dao's true body smashed down like a meteor, landing on the ground with a deafening bang. The Shura tribe grunted, and his tall body was smashed shorter. His legs bent slightly, and he almost knelt on the ground. The Shura tribe could no longer defend against the blood chi of the Wu Dao's true body. The Wu Dao's true body did not give the Shura tribe any chance to catch his breath, and took another step forward. That step was like a heaven-plowing plow. Boom! That step landed on the arms of the Shura tribe once more. Poof! 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 Shura tribe's arms exploded with clouds of blood. He was trampled under the feet of the Wu Dao's true body, and fell to his knees in the ruins with blood spewing from his mouth and nose. Chapter 2297. Shura was tall and burly. However, he was now kneeling on the ground with a seemingly tiny figure standing on his raised arms. However, that figure was the one that was crushing Shura beneath his feet, causing him to be unable to raise his head. The monks of Shura Temple widened their eyes in shock. Shura was a Buddhist arhat, and it took a lot of effort to subdue him to protect Shura Temple. Unexpectedly, Shura was suppressed by the purple-robed man within 2 to 3 rounds, and could not move at all. What was even more frightening was that the purple-robed man defeated Shura in melee combat. It was purely a contest of blood chi and physique. In fact, Shura might have been able to last a little longer against Wu Dao's true body, if he had released all his strength right away. Just now, his aura was stolen by Wu Dao's true body, and he was subdued by Wu Dao's true body before he could release all his brute force. Does your temple not have any fretless fruits? Wu Dao's true body asked again, as he trampled Shura beneath his feet, but did not kill him. The reason why he came this time round was to save Yin Beichen. He did not have any deep grudges with Shura Temple, and there was no need for him to kill them. The fretless tree has long been shattered. You're too late. A monk sneered. If you want the fretless fruit, you can go to Avicii. You might find it there. All right, I was just about to go there to take a look. Wu Dao's true body replied indifferently. The monk was stunned. Just now, he had merely mentioned it casually, and did not expect the purple-robed man to go to Avicii. Even in the entire upper realm, Avicii was a notorious forbidden ground, let alone the heavenly realm. Even the Emperor Lords did not dare to enter to investigate. Going to Avicii was equivalent to suicide and seeking death. Ever since the existence of Avicii, countless experts had tried to explore the secrets of Avicii. However, none of them came out alive. Avicii was like a bottomless black hole that could devour everything. What are you talking about? The monk still couldn't believe it. He shouted softly. Do you know what kind of place Avicii is? Wu Dao paid no attention to the monks of Shura Temple. His body moved, and he took the celestial wolf forward. Soon, they disappeared from the sight of the monks. Senior brother, what should we do? A monk said. The abbot's Dao heart has collapsed, and he has gone mad. Should we send a message to the Arhat powerhouses of Putua Temple? Send someone to follow him first. Let's see where the purple-robed cultivator is going. Another monk said in a low voice. If he really enters the Avicii hell, we don't have to bother about him. After all, entering the Avicii hell is equivalent to being a dead man. All right. A monk's figure flashed and chased after Wu Dao's original body. Shura Temple was extremely vast. Wu Dao's original body walked for about 15 minutes before he saw the wall of Shura Temple's backyard. Wu Dao's original body was about to cross the wall and leave Shura Temple with the celestial wolf. However, he suddenly stopped, and his gaze fell on a corner of Shura Temple's backyard. There was an inconspicuous grave there. Next to it stood a dilapidated and shabby thatched hut that was on the verge of collapse. There was nothing strange about it. The only strange thing was that an old monk was sitting on a tombstone with his back facing Wu Dao's original body. The old monk was hunchbacked and looked withered. He raised his head slightly, his two white eyebrows almost hanging on his shoulders. He looked in the direction of the pure land of bliss with a serene expression. No one knew what he was looking at. The old monk's posture was a little strange. Sitting on a tombstone was somewhat disrespectful to the dead. What puzzled Wu Dao's original body even more was that just now, he had spread out his spirit consciousness and searched Shura Temple from top to bottom. However, he did not sense the existence of this old monk. Wu Dao's original body's spirit consciousness circled around the old monk. He was only a low-level mystic immortal, and his lifespan was nearing its end. He exuded a lethargic aura, and did not have much time left. Wu Dao's original body felt that this long-browed old monk was a little special. However, he could not pinpoint exactly what was different about him. May I know your Dharma name, Master? Wu Dao's original body descended, and came beside the long-browed old monk. He cupped his fists and asked. The long-browed old monk turned his head slowly, and glanced at Wu Dao's original body, before looking at the celestial wolf beside him. There was no fluctuation in his turbid eyes, and there was no change in his expression. I don't have a Dharma name. I'm just a tombkeeper. The long-browed old monk replied indifferently, as though he was not interested in Wu Dao's original body, and the celestial wolf at all. He retracted his gaze after a single glance. Why is there a Shura Temple here? Wu Dao's original body asked. It was probably tens of thousands of years ago. There was a huge commotion there. The long-browed old monk raised his scrawny arm and pointed in a direction. Wu Dao's original body looked at the map. That was the direction of Taiwei Mountains of Avicii Hell. The celestial wolf had mentioned before that something huge seemed to have happened in Avicii Hell tens of thousands of years ago, causing him and the hell-suppressing cauldron to fall into the lower realm at the same time. The long-browed old monk said. After that, The monks of the Pure Land built a temple here to keep an eye on that area. If anything happens, they can spread the news to the entire Pure Land as soon as possible. Wu Dao's original body nodded silently. This made sense. Just a Xian sect was enough to monitor the Grand Taiwei Mountain for any strange movements from this area. Who are the people buried in these tombs? Wu Dao's original body asked again. The long-browed old monk replied. They are all monks who passed away in meditation in the temple. Why isn't there a name on the tombstone of the tomb beneath you? Because this person isn't dead yet. Whose tomb is this? Mine. The old monk wasn't dead yet, but he had already prepared his own tomb and tombstone in advance. Furthermore, the long-browed old monk was still sitting on his tombstone in such a calm and composed manner, as if he had already seen through everything and was waiting for death to descend. An indescribable sense of strangeness rose in Wu Dao's original body's heart. A strange movement came from his clothes behind him. Wu Dao's original body glanced sideways and saw the celestial wolf biting the hem of his clothes with its head lowered. It was tugging gently, urging him to leave quickly. Wu Dao's original body took a deep breath and clasped his fists to bid farewell. The long-browed old monk didn't move at all, not even looking at him. Wu Dao's original body rose into the air and led the celestial wolf in the direction of the Taiwei Mountain. You know this old monk? Wu Dao's original body asked. I don't. After walking far away, Sirius let out a long sigh, as if relieved of a heavy burden, and said, But I don't know why, but this old man gives me a gloomy feeling. It's especially uncomfortable to be with him. Just now, when he looked at me like that, all my fur stood up. Wu Dao's original body didn't feel that way. Furthermore, he didn't sense any hostility or killing intent from the long-browed old monk. His spirit perception didn't react at all. This old man is really strange. He's not dead yet, and he's already prepared a tomb for himself. Isn't he afraid of bad luck? The celestial wolf mumbled again. Tombkeeper, tombkeeper. Wu Dao's original body muttered in thought. End of chapter. Chapter 2298. The peak of the Grand Taiwei Mountain was extremely wide. Wu Dao's original body and Sky Wolf passed through the Shura Temple and rushed all the way. After about an hour, they arrived at the other end of the mountain. During this time, a monk from the Shura Temple was following behind them. Although this monk from the Shura Temple hid very well and moved very fast, he could not escape the senses of Wu Dao's original body. Wu Dao's original body did not take him seriously. When they arrived at this place and looked into the distance, they could see a tall black mountain standing in the middle of the sea. It was the legendary Taiwei Mountain. Different from the majestic majesty of ordinary mountains, Wu Dao's original body felt gloomy and cold when he first saw the Taiwei Mountain. In the direction of the Taiwei Mountain, his spiritual sense was constantly warning him. Before they even reached the top of the Taiwei Mountain, Wu Dao's original body felt his heart palpitating, as if a great disaster was about to befall him. Wu Dao's original body had never felt such a feeling since he started cultivating. Even when he faced the blood demon Dao Lord back then, Wu Dao's original body did not feel such palpitations. It's not too late to go back now. Sky Wolf also saw that Wu Dao's original body was hesitating and advised in a low voice. The Avicii Hell is a world of its own, isolated from the world's Yuan Qi. Once you're inside, you won't be able to use any skills or spells. Moreover, there are countless ghosts and vengeful spirits inside. Some of these ghosts and vengeful spirits were true immortals, immortal kings, and even emperors. These ghosts and vengeful spirits gather together and continuously devour life essence and flesh. Back then, even the old master could not withstand it, let alone you. I did come here without anything to rely on, Wu Dao's original body said lightly. Sky Wolf continued. Also, even if you have divine weapons or magic treasures, they will be reduced to scrap metal in the Avicii Hell. There is Avicii demonic Qi in the Hell. When it contaminates divine weapons or magic treasures, it can seal off all their powers, Wu Dao's original body said. I don't have any divine weapons or magic treasures. My fist is the strongest divine weapon. Go. Wu Dao's main body said, then headed towards the Grand Taiwei Mountain. Tianlang's face was full of resistance, but he could only grit his teeth and follow. Between the Taiwei Mountain and the Grand Taiwei Mountain, there was a strait that was completely dark. Only the ocean between the two mountains was suffused with a dark green light. If one looked carefully, there seemed to be dark green fine flames burning on the surface of the ocean. It was extremely strange. As soon as Wu Dao's main body left the Grand Taiwei Mountain, he was already on high alert, his divine sense spread out, ready to deal with any sudden changes. Fortunately, there were no mishaps along the way. Ripples appeared in the dark green ocean below, and then they calmed down. After a long while, Wu Dao and Tianlang finally reached the top of Taiwei Mountain. The moment he stepped onto the top of Taiwei Mountain, Wu Dao's main body suddenly sensed that there was a strong calling ahead, as if urging him to move forward. You feel it too, right? When Tianlang stepped onto the Taiwei Mountain, he could no longer control himself, and began to tremble. He said with a trembling voice, This is the demonic power of the Avicii Hell. If we retreat now, there's still hope for survival. If we take another step, we might be doomed eternally. Wu Dao's main body glanced sideways at Yan Beichen on Tianlang's back. After a moment of silence, he said slowly, Continue. With that said, he led the way forward. Tianlang hid behind Wu Dao's main body and followed carefully while saying, The Avicii Hell is vast and boundless. Even if we fall, wanting to find the old master's body is like finding a needle in a haystack. Back then, I was just an artifact spirit and couldn't move around. I didn't know much about the Avicii Hell. Tianlang's voice already carried a trace of grief. He only had fear towards the Avicii Hell. At this moment, Wu Dao's main body suddenly stopped, and Tianlang almost crashed into it. Under the cold Mo Luo mask, Wu Dao's main body had a serious expression. His eyes were looking at a huge abyss not far away, and his breathing was heavy. There was actually such a bottomless abyss in the center of the Taiwei Mountain. Looking down at the abyss from above, only darkness could be seen. Even with the eyesight of Wu Dao's main body, he couldn't see what was down there. This pitch-black abyss was like the bloody mouth of an ancient giant beast, waiting for its prey to come to its door. The summoning feeling from before came from this abyss. Any living being that stepped onto the Taiwei Mountain would find it difficult to resist this summoning feeling. This is the entrance to the Avicii Hell, the gates of hell. Tianlang trembled all over. Wu Dao's main body suddenly asked, The Grand Taiwei Mountain and the Taiwei Mountain are both made of the same material, right? Yes, Tianlang instinctively answered, not knowing why Wu Dao's main body would ask such a question. Wu Dao's main body faintly said, Back then, when Bo Sun was killed, more than 20 emperors fought here, but they still couldn't shake the Taiwei Mountain. But the Seamless Emperor was able to break open such a huge abyss on the Taiwei Mountain. The terror of the Seamless Emperor was clearly not to be underestimated. At this moment, a powerful suction force came from the entrance to the abyss, as if the mouth of a giant beast was about to close. Wu Dao's main body and Tianlang were standing at the edge of the abyss, but they simply couldn't resist this force. The two of them and the wolf fell into the abyss. Tianlang let out a shrill cry before his voice was quickly swallowed up by the darkness. The two of them and the wolf also disappeared. Not far away, the Shira monk who saw this scene was so frightened that he turned around and fled. This person really doesn't know what's good for him. He still dares to climb the Taiwei Mountain. The Shira monk muttered and flew back to the Shira temple without looking back. When Wu Dao's main body landed, he reacted immediately. He reached out his hand and caught Tianlang and Yan Beichen on his back. The two of them and the wolf stayed together and didn't get separated. They were falling too fast. Without hesitation, Wu Dao's main body released the 9 fate wheels. Behind him, purple halos appeared and runes flickered. But in an instant, the 9 fate wheels were covered by a layer of faint black fog. In a few breaths, the 9 fate wheels quietly collapsed. This is the Avicii demonic chi. Tianlang noticed this and said with his spiritual consciousness, We haven't really entered the Avicii Hell. The Avicii demonic chi here is very faint. Even so, The 9 fate wheels couldn't withstand it. The two of them, and the wolf continued to fall. The wind whistled in their ears. In this abyss, the visibility was extremely low. Even with the eyesight of Wu Dao's main body, he couldn't see far. He could only see about 3 meters around him. The range of his spiritual consciousness was about the same. Wu Dao's main body controlled his body and calculated the falling distance silently. 100 meters. 10,000 meters. 100,000 meters. 1,000,000 meters. The two of them and the wolf were still falling. The dark abyss below seemed to be bottomless. Wu Dao's main body didn't know what was waiting for them down there. Bookhouse reading website. Chapter 2299. The falling momentum of Wu Dao's true body did not slow down at all, as though it would continue falling. It was as though there was a bottomless abyss beneath them that could devour everything. Wu Dao's true body could no longer calculate the height that the two of them fell after entering the gates of hell. After an unknown period of time, the two of them and the wolf seemed to have passed through a water-like barrier and suddenly entered another space. This space was filled with dense yin qi and was filled with thick black fog. After Wu Dao's true body entered this place, he discovered that his essence spirit and the essence qi in his body were suppressed by an invisible force and could not be used. The range of his spirit consciousness was limited, and the visibility was extremely low as well. We're here. This is the Avicii hell. The heavenly wolf's trembling voice sounded. It was almost inaudible, as though it was afraid of awakening some terrifying existence in the Avicii hell. After entering this place, it was difficult to even release the simplest dermic art of spirit consciousness voice transmission. The surrounding black fog is the Avicii fiend qi. Wu Dao's true body supported the heavenly wolf with one palm the entire time. He could sense that the heavenly wolf's body was trembling. It was truly afraid. Wu Dao's true body tried his best to stabilize his body. After a while, he finally landed on the ground, and the feeling of solid ground came from below. The surroundings were extremely quiet with a hint of eeriness. Wu Dao's true body looked over, and 2 balls of flames appeared in his eyes, expanding the range of his vision as much as possible. He still could not see anything. Wu Dao's true body could only see the pitch-black ground beneath his feet and the surrounding pitch-black rocks. Some of the rocks were even stained with scarlet blood. The vengeful ghosts of hell did not seem to have appeared. How do we go? Wu Dao's true body asked softly. I don't know either. The heavenly wolf's face was pale as it shook its head. This place is different from what I remember. This way. Wu Dao's true body pondered for a moment, and casually chose a direction, and led the way. The heavenly wolf followed closely behind, and looked around constantly with a tense mind. Yen Beichen was still sprawled on his back in an unconscious state. Everything around him was unknown. Wu Dao's true body didn't dare to move too quickly. After walking for tens of miles, the surroundings were quiet. Except for the footsteps of Wu Dao and Heavenly Wolf, there was no other sound. Along the way, Wu Dao's true self saw many skeletons in the hell of Avicii, but most of them had died long ago. Just a light touch would cause them to turn to ashes. Even the storage bags beside the skeletons had rotted and broken, and the magical treasures and divine weapons inside had been reduced to dust. He even passed by a pool of blood. It was unknown how long the blood had been there, but it still hadn't dried up. Wu Dao's true body didn't dare to approach. That pool of blood contained a terrifying amount of power. After walking for another dozen or so miles, Wu Dao's main body suddenly stopped, turned around, and looked over with rapt attention. Skywolf jumped in fright and hurriedly stopped moving. What happened? Sirius asked in a low voice. I heard another set of footsteps. Wu Dao's main body said slowly. You mean? Skywolf had a horrified expression. Wu Dao's main body said. Something was following behind me. Psst. Skywolf grimaced and sucked in a cold breath of air. The fur on his body stood on end, and his entire body expanded. In the vision of Wu Dao's main body, there was only a thick black fog, and he couldn't see anything. Wu Dao's main body took a deep breath and continued forward. This time round, the additional set of footsteps behind him did not appear again. After walking for about an hour, a strange sound came from the black fog on his left. Snap! This sound was as if something had stepped on a bone and broken it. Wu Dao's main body looked towards the source of the sound with a grim expression. Suddenly, a ball of crimson-red light emerged from the black fog. It was like a strange lantern that slowly floated over. The lantern was gradually approaching. Sky Wolf was on guard and widened his eyes. At this moment he calmed down instead. After all, he was the demon king of 7 emotions in his previous life, and had experienced too much bloodshed and seen countless dangerous forbidden grounds. If he panicked at such a juncture, the only outcome would be death. Before long, the outline of a massive body gradually appeared and walked out of the black fog. It was a vicious hound that looked more than 30 feet tall. Its body was a mess of flesh and ribs could be seen from one side of its body. The hound only had half a head, and its single eye was filled with endless killing intent. It bared its sharp fangs and sticky saliva flowed from its mouth. Even at the bottom of the Dragon Burial Valley of Tianhuang mainland, malicious spirits with flesh and blood had appeared. Wu Dao's main body was not surprised that such a vicious living being could be born in the Avicii hell of the upper world. Roar! The hound glared at Wu Dao's main body for a moment and seemed to be unsure. It growled deeply and lunged towards Sky Wolf. Sky Wolf was fearless and dodged the hound's attack in a flash. Suddenly, it turned back and bit the hound's neck before swinging it. Snap! The hound's neck was bitten off by Sky Wolf, and half of its head drooped limply. Sky Wolf spat and pouted. "Dog, how dare you provoke me with such puny methods?" Sky Wolf turned around and was about to leave when the hound whose neck was bitten off stood up strangely. Its head drooped and it glared at Sky Wolf with its single eye. The blood glint in its eyes turned brighter. The moment Sky Wolf turned around, the hound stood up and lunged over with a fatal attack. By the time Sky Wolf realized the danger, it was already too late. A purple figure flashed by. Wu Dao's main body was even faster. Arriving behind Sky Wolf, he reached out and grabbed the hound's front paws, ripping them apart. Shing! A chilling sound echoed, and the hound was torn into two by Wu Dao's main body, with blood flowing everywhere. Even so, the hound was not completely dead. Half of its body squirmed on the ground. However, it was impossible for it to stand up and attack again. Living beings that were formed from phantoms and malevolent ghosts did not have a consciousness or essence spirit. If he wanted to kill them completely, he would have to burn them to the ground and turn them into ashes. "You've never seen such a hound before?" Wu Dao's main body asked with a frown. Judging from Sky Wolf's performance earlier on, he did not seem to have any experience fighting against such a hound. Sky Wolf shook his head. "No. After the old master and I fell in, he was recuperating on the spot. Before long, countless phantoms and malevolent ghosts turned into ants and swarmed over. The old master was severely injured and could not defend against the attacks of the ants. That was why he died." Wu Dao's main body pondered for a moment. "As you said, the Avicii hell is vast and boundless. It's reasonable for us to encounter different living beings of hell. Thankfully, this hound isn't strong and doesn't pose much of a threat to us." Sky Wolf shook his head gently. "Although this hound is weak, there are definitely phantoms and malevolent ghosts that are much stronger than it in the Avicii hell. If those phantoms and malevolent ghosts awaken, we won't be able to defend against them at all. The only way to survive is to find the old master's corpse and find a way to leave this place." You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.